Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Wednesday, August 6th, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Today is a heavy morning on earnings. I didn't even realize how heavy of a morning it was, but we have Uber, Shopify, Disney. We got a bunch of other companies that are a bit smaller, but still reporting. Also, some other larger ones in the pharmaceutical space like Novo Nordisk. So we will be talking about that and going deeper into kind of the earnings that we have there and the implications of those earnings as well. It is Wednesday, middle of the week. Broader S&P 500 has been relatively flat the entire week. We gained a lot of what we lost back on Friday. We are green in the pre-markets. We got a bunch of names that are green in the pre-market. Some names like Shopify absolutely demolished earnings, and they are very green in the pre-market. Shopify, not new all-time highs, but very close to all-time highs. That's up 15%, so that's incredible. And we'll talk more about that. Yeah, Oscar had earnings this morning. AMD, we'll obviously talk about that from yesterday. Zeta had earnings, so we'll be discussing and recapping a ton of earnings that happened yesterday and this morning. And then after the bell, it is going to be complete madness. There's almost 20 companies reporting. And a lot of them are important. DraftKings, Duolingo, Elf, IONQ, Airbnb, AppLovin, Lyft, Symbiotic, Dutch Bros. I mean, you got a lot of stuff. Joby, Fortinet, that we'll be talking about. DoorDash. So we'll get all into that on the market close. We got a bunch of earnings today that we'll talk about as well. And then we have a bunch of macro stuff. So apparently Trump is making an announcement at 4:30. Have no idea what the announcement is going to be about, but it is some announcement. So we'll be talking about what that announcement is. It'll coincide with all the earnings stuff coming out at 4:30. So it will be a pretty busy market close. Yesterday, he signed some executive orders in regards to sports and the Olympics. So not sure exactly what he's going to announce today, but we'll see what he got, and then we'll keep going from there. Mike says, it's my birthday, so Palantir moving back to 175 today. Mike, happy birthday. I know we've had a little bit of a 24 hours on a Palantir high. We are still trading at 172. We're holding 170, up from 7% yesterday. The broader market was down. A lot of stocks after hours. It was a pretty nasty bloodbath that were also down. Palantir maintaining 172, which is pretty incredible. Would not surprise me if we get a dip and we give some of that back. Would also not surprise me if we're able to hold on to that momentum. But in the face of what was not only the after hours red that we had yesterday, Snapchat, AMD, Rivian, SMCI, and Opendoor. SMCI also got kicked really bad, down about 15%. I think down now it's down 17 in the pre-markets. And the S&P 500 being red, Palantir was able to hold up. So those earnings, again, being respected by the broader street. And that's what's leading to some of this momentum. So there we go. We got a lot to talk about. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Deneen, good morning. Rebecca, what's up? Trucker Rob, thank you for being here. Jim the Six, what's up? Apple is up on a report. We'll talk about what that report is, and that's why it's getting some green. Elaine, good morning. Thank you for being here. Quantes, what's up? Mark, what's up? Payush, Kane, Mickey, Brian. Maybe he's going to announce tariffs. I mean, maybe there's something around tariffs. He was talking about sanctions with Russia and sanctions on companies or tariffs on companies that are doing business with Russia. So maybe at 4:30, it's a little bit more of a argument potentially to get India to the negotiating table. So we'll see what happens from there. Lindsay, good evening from Australia. Thank you for being here from Australia. I need to visit Australia because I love the Australian accent. I also want to see the kangaroos in person, even though I feel like I'd be so scared if I see the kangaroos in person. But yes, Australia, hopefully 2026 will happen. Margarita, what's up? Simon, Rag, Martin, on time. Yes, we are on time. We've been on time pretty much for the past month, though. There's been a couple of days where we've been late. A lot of days we've been early. But it's a new era, and we are on time every day. Kim, Chris Rose, I'm Ben. What's up? Nuno, it is always late, just like Powell. Powell better give us 50 bips, bro. It's time to get some cuts. Canman, good morning. Nick, Emmanuel, Martin, Marie, thank you, everybody, for being here. All right, let's get into it, and let's do what we got to do. And Yagami says, it's my 25th birthday today. Happy 25, dude. Congratulations. You know, there's a decent amount of you. I mean, the majority of the audience is in their late 30s, early 40s, at least from what I see in my YouTube analytics. But there are a decent chunk of you that are like in the early 20s or at least mid 20s. And that's awesome because, you know, getting ready to invest at that early of an age is important. And I think that's when you can make a lot of mistakes like I did. Made a lot of mistakes in the early 20s. Not in the early 20s anymore. Dude, in 2 months, I'm going to be 28. I will be 28 in 2. That's kind of crazy, bro. October 27th, I will be 28 years old. It's going to be kind of wild. So I cannot say I'm a little kid anymore, or say I'm in my early 20s. But thankfully, we made enough mistakes back then to hopefully get some momentum in the late 20s. All right, before we get into everything, folks, Anil Kashkari is live. He's one of the Fed presidents. Let's see what he has to say. Hopefully we get some progress on quality or clarity on thoughts in regards to interest rates in the labor market. So let's switch over to him real quick. He's in Aspen with Andrew Ross Sorkin, and then we'll keep going from there and get into all the earnings that we got.
Board, what it feels like.
It's uncertain. I mean, there's a lot, the Fed's in the news for a lot of reasons outside of just economics. And so that can be a distraction. And so it's just a reminder, keep focusing on the data, keep focusing on our jobs. And that's what we have to do. And that's what we are doing.
Okay, so rate path, of course, is the ultimate question that you guys have to solve.
Yep.
The president calls Powell too late constantly. The numbers, by the way, now that they continue to get revised downward, I think there's a group of people who increasingly look at those numbers and say, maybe he is too late. What do you think?
Well, there's two categories of data that I'm focused on. There's a bunch of data that I know and that I've got confidence in, and there's data that I don't know and we're not going to know for a while. The data that I think we know is that the economy is slowing. Housing services inflation is gently declining. Non-housing services inflation is coming down. Wage growth is coming down. We've seen the jobs number, and consumer spending is cooling. All of that suggests the real underlying economy is slowing. I've got confidence that that is happening. The part that I don't have confidence yet is what are the ultimate effects of tariffs going to be on inflation? And what I'm realizing is we may not know the answer to that for quarters or a year or more. And that tells me as one policymaker, I need to start leaning more on the data that I've got confidence in. The economy is slowing. And that means in the near term, it may become appropriate to start adjusting the federal funds rate.
If that's true, do you think you were wrong to hold off thus far?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think the economy has held up remarkably well. I think these tariff shocks are unlike anything that we've seen in 100 years, virtually. And it's taken a while for businesses to try to process it, for policymakers to try to process it. And there's just been delays. And if you look at the average effective tariff that's being paid at the border, it's around 10%. It's been climbing now month after month. It's well short of the 16% headline rate. And so should we react as policymakers to the headlines, or should we react to what's actually affecting the economy? And that's what's making these judgments difficult.
We've been talking all morning about something interesting, which is why do you think companies have not taken up price in the way they did during the pandemic? Meaning during the pandemic, companies took up price almost in advance of inflation that they thought was coming. With the tariffs this time, that has not been the case.
Well, I think it's a few different reasons. One is once there's a pandemic that everybody can see and it's nobody's fault, it's just a terrible thing that's happening to all of us, it's easy to say, hey, it's not my fault. I think tariffs are more complicated. Are your competitors going to do it or not? I was in Montana recently, a small business, she runs a small restaurant company. I said, how did you protect yourself against tariffs? She said in late January, she bought a year's worth of bamboo shoots from abroad and stored them to protect her and her customers from tariffs. It's remarkable that that happened at such a little company and at big companies. So that's also why we have not yet seen the full effects yet. People are working down these inventories.
And so when you say you're not going to know it, you 12 months, what do you think happens between now and the next 12 months?
Well, I think right now the economy is slowing, and I think that we're going to have to respond to that. As the inflation data starts to come up, we're seeing it now in core goods, but how high is that going to get? Is it going to spill over into other categories? And is it going to be persistent? We're not going to know the answer to that for a long time.
The other piece of this is
basically Neil Kashkari is trying to say, I hope we don't have stagflation, because he already admitted the market's weakening, labor market, consumer expenditures. So if we don't have inflation spike up, then we can justify the cut. If we do, you're going to have Powell saying maybe there's a stagflationary issue that would prevent me from meaningfully cutting.
Whether you think the tariffs are persistent, meaning whether you think they go up, they go down, they disappear. I mean, I think part of what the market is doing right now is to some degree discounting that the tariffs, at least as we know them today, stay that way.
Well, I'm assuming the tariffs will be persistent. Whether the tariff effects on inflation are persistent is the question that central bankers care a lot about. And that we're not going to know for a long time. And does it bleed over into inflation expectations? So the path that I think about, I put down 2 rate cuts in my December summary of economic projections for 25. I maintained 2 in March. I maintained 2 in June. 2 still seems reasonable to me for
before
this
the
year.
end of the year. So 2 more.
Potentially. But now we've got a lot of data to come in. But sitting here today, I could see 2 rate cuts this year. But if it turns out that tariffs are having a bigger effect on inflation and it's more persistent, we could do one or more rate cuts and then we could pause. If inflation really ticks up because of tariffs, we could even then raise again. The tariffs are just such an unknown right now, what they're ultimately going to do to the economy. I don't want to make any promises about the longer term future.
All right. So Kashkari out there basically saying, hey, I see 2 cuts as a possibility. The CME Fed probabilities now for a rate cut based on those job revisions that we got last Friday, 89.2%. It seems very likely we are going to get a September cut. Goldman Sachs yesterday said we're probably going to get 3 cuts by the end of the year. The number one nuance people have to watch out for are we getting cuts because the market is weakening, the labor market, to such an extent that is actually hurting the economy and we need to save it with stimulus, aka rate cuts? Or are these precautionary rate cuts that are not really reacting to the labor market, but rather saying, hey, we can see there's some weakness here. We don't think it's like endemic to the point where we have to cut like crazy, but it's some, like, I guess you could say, cuts that make sure that the labor market is continuing to be strong, even if it weakens, so that there's a cushion for it to fall back on versus it to essentially continue to fall with no protection at all. And as long as that's the case, and the earnings, we got to talk about earnings in the next 2 minutes. The earnings have been phenomenal across the board. I mean, if there's companies that are having bad earnings, it's really those companies' faults, not the macro fault. As long as that's the case, then regardless of how quote unquote horrible the labor market is, we should be able to see the market sustain itself given the earnings are decent. And that rate cuts obviously will be a massive tailwind for all equities. Again, when you have a rate cut, the yield you're getting on money that's not being put into somewhere safe, like a money market fund, a high yield savings account, that yield goes down. Robin is giving you 4% right now to keep your money in cash. Robin is going to be giving you 3.75% if the Fed cuts by 25 bips. It's not fun to get 3.75% if you can invest in Meta or Nvidia, and Meta and Nvidia are doing a lot better than 3.75%. So that is the tailwind for equities. And the argument is hopefully around getting enough of those cuts that the market can price in without the labor market necessarily tanking. Now, in terms of the earnings today, let's get into it. Let's start off with the best one of the day. And these earnings, my goodness, it's the one that got away from me, Shopify. I told myself I would DCA into this year, and there's video proof of that. We were on the December 31st New Year's Eve stream talking about what stocks we're interested in for 2025, and Shopify was on my list of 5 stocks. Never ended up pulling the trigger. I kind of honestly just forgot about it, was never that interested, even though it was on my radar. And Shopify just crushed it. 31% revenue growth, 30.6% year-over-year growth in GMV, 9.5% growth in monthly recurring revenue, and $422 million in free cash flow, up 27% year-over-year. Shopify president Harley Finkelstein said, "Innovation never stops at Shopify. Today's results are the payoff from bold bets that we made years ago." Shopify is a founder-led company, and quite frankly, the president, although he's not the founder, Harley Finkelstein, he's almost acting like he's the co-founder in terms of his passion for the business. If you've ever seen him talk about the company, Shopify right here, up 15%. Toby Luke is the guy that is hard to bet against. Very, very, very hard to bet against. And I knew about Shopify in 2017 when I was thinking of like building out e-commerce stores and all that stuff. So that was kind of my first introduction to business. And so I've known about the company for a long time, just never pulled the trigger on the investment. I think it's worth a deep dive. I know obviously it's a lot more expensive than it was a year ago, definitely a couple months ago, but I think it's worth a deep dive because this is kind of one of those sleep well at night companies. You can buy it, and if you assume e-commerce will be around a decade from now, and you've got a really good management team that cares about the business, a decade from now, Shopify, which is at a market cap right now about 170 billion, it should be larger than what it is today. And so congrats to everyone in Shopify. E-commerce is not going anywhere. Shopify is the de facto platform outside of Amazon that is really capitalizing on giving independent merchants the ability to win when it comes to e-commerce. And as a result, you're seeing that inflection in their growth, and they are getting momentum. Now, Unity, this was the next company that had earnings. They beat by 7% on EPS, 26 cents versus 28 cents expected on the negative side, so they are still losing money. Revenue 440 versus 426. Unity stock, I believe, did not have the best share price movement from these results. Well, they're up 4% now. So they fell back down to 32. Now they're at 35. Okay, so they were down about 3%, I think about an hour ago when I checked. And now they're at 35, 39. So not horrible. You beat on the top of the line, top and the bottom. Again, if you don't own these companies, as long as you're seeing that they're beating on the top and the bottom, that is the most important to understand the state of the economy and obviously the state of the consumer. Speaking of the consumer, McDonald's, Mickey D's 1% EPS beat, 2% revenue beat. McDonald's EPS is up 7% year over year. Revenue is up 5% year over year. McDonald's did bring back the snack wrap after like 10 years. which is just like a chicken tender inside of a tortilla with like lettuce and sauce. So I mean, it's not the most exciting food item in the world, but people love it. And I think that will be a driver for Q3 sales going higher than where they were last year. McDonald's is up 4% year over year. McDonald's is up 4% year over year. Very exciting to see some of these consumer plays that were getting a little bit of weakness yesterday in terms of the earnings reports now recovering. Then we got Uber. We'll listen to Dara, the Uber CEO, in a little bit and see what he had to say, but he beat on the top and the bottom, 2%, 63 cents versus 62 cents expected, which is not bad for Uber. Obviously, very important for Uber to show that they have the strength to be able to maintain their momentum in the face of robotaxis. They beat by 1% on revenue. Revenue is up 18% year over year. EPS is up 34% year over year. Now, Uber stock is not moving like crazy. It's up barely 0.5%. Stock is up a lot year to date. It was at $60. Now it's at 90. So it was one of those quarters that was good. It wasn't like some phenomenal quarter that will get the stock to go that much higher. Maybe it does when the market opens. But overall, people are booking trips with Uber, and it doesn't look like that's stopping anytime soon. Oscar, big retail name. They missed on EPS by 6%. So they lost 89 cents a share versus 84 cents a share expected. Revenue, $2.86 billion versus $2.92. They missed on revenue as well. This stock had its 15 minutes of fame when it climbed to 23. Unfortunately, the momentum has been stalled realistically by the big, beautiful bill. I mean, that has hurt the entire insurance sector. And there's a lot of provisions in that big, beautiful bill that I think most people that invest in Oscar probably don't even fully know about because they didn't really invest in it for the understanding of healthcare, but rather the understanding of growth. And there is growth. It's just a lot of that growth theoretically could be stalled with this big, beautiful bill. So missing on the top and the bottom, never a good thing. Revenue is up 30% year over year. EPS is down 545%. I have not gone super deep into the numbers. I will say it's only down 2%. I mean, based on some of the tweets I was reading this morning from the Oscar Bulls, they were expecting it to be down like 5-7%. So it's kind of holding up. You got dip buyers coming in. People are not getting that bearish. Oscar is also down a lot already on the month. So it is encouraging at least to see that it's not as aggressive as it was a couple weeks ago when they got hit from the big, beautiful bill. SMCI is down 17%. So SMCI had earnings yesterday. Those earnings just were not good. They were not good. They missed on the top and the bottom, and they missed in a pretty aggressive way. Their gross margins came down to 9.5%. EPS missed by 7%. Revenue missed by 3%. Revenue is up 8% year over year. EPS is down 35% year over year. This isn't really bearish NVIDIA or AMD. This is just a server company that can't really make a ton of margins. They already took down some of their preliminary guidance 2 months ago for Q2. So I think the street new guidance would not be the best for revenues, but the margin part is, I think, what really hurt the company. And yeah, I mean, like out of all the semis, there are other plays. I know SMCI is very exciting to a lot of people, but it's just not the one that's producing a ton of net income because of those margins being as bad as they are. And then you had AMD. So I listened to the entire AMD call. It's down 5%. The problem with AMD, in my opinion, as someone who doesn't really own the stock, so I'm not that deep into it as other people are, is that the earnings were not that exciting from a growth perspective. So on EPS, they came in line, 48 cents. On revenue, they beat by 3%, 7.68 versus 7.43. Listen to Lisa Su the whole time on the call. And essentially, she said, hey, we have some tailwinds in regards to the increasing pricing power on our MI350 chips. We have China revenue that she didn't confirm was coming back, but she kind of gave a politically correct answer to say that it's coming back eventually. But the data center revenue growth, which again, like in a nutshell, this is kind of why I picked NVIDIA over AMD when I looked at their growth rates back in January. And then obviously NVIDIA with the DeepSeek stuff, it created a compelling opportunity when it was down 40%. Data center revenues are up 14% year over year. Like, that's just not the most exciting. Now, it doesn't have to be 70% like NVIDIA. Obviously, NVIDIA is valued a lot higher than AMD on a market cap basis as well. But still, it's one of those things where it's like that needs to reaccelerate in Q3, Q4, I think, to get a lot of people excited. Jose will be on at 10:30. We'll get his thoughts. AMD is the second largest position. So we'll hear from him in terms of how he thought about the growth. Lisa Su said, we are seeing robust demand across our computing and AI product portfolio, and we are well positioned to deliver significant growth. It's just that growth is not that significant in Q2. I mean, 14% in the age of AI when everything's going crazy in regards to valuations on private companies that we'll talk about. We got some updates on OpenAI and the overall data center build out. 14% growth just feels weak. Like as someone who just doesn't even hold the stock looking at it objectively, it just feels like that should be like 35% or something. So in Q3, I think we will get that acceleration, but as of now, we didn't. And also, you can't be mad if you're an AMD bull. This thing was 70, now it's at 165. It's like, it ran up a lot into the print. it took a little bit of a breather. It's taken a breather, maybe takes a further breather when the market opens, but I don't think anyone should be that upset or sad about the momentum that you got on AMB. Yeah, the cash to enterprise value of Oscar, I agree. It is incredibly cheap. I mean, this was one of the reasons we did a deep dive on it, because they have a lot of cash on the balance sheet. And I think their cash is almost as much as their market cap, if not above, or it's like 80% of their market cap. It's just, it's an insurance, you know? And given everything we're seeing with UNH, which is a much bigger company that does a lot more free cash flow than Oscar, UNH getting hit the way it has got hit. It was up 4% yesterday, basically up 0.4% in the pre-markets. It's hard for some of these other insurance players to continue making that momentum. But if you do deliver the growth like a Lemonade, which was up 30% yesterday, up another 1% right here, then the street can get excited. And Oscar is just not growing as aggressively as a Lemonade. Novo. So this thing has just been an absolute disaster. I mean, down another 4%. They beat on the top and the bottom. I'm imagining some other parts of their earnings weren't the most exciting for the street. These earnings came out at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and then we'll talk about Disney as well because they have earnings. And I mean, it wasn't a horrible earnings. Actually, no, they didn't beat on the top and the bottom. They missed, but it's a very slight miss. They missed on revenue. I mean, very inconsequential. It's like by 0.001%. EPS, they missed by 2%. So they missed by 2 cents there. And EPS up 40% year over year, revenues up 20% year over year, but they didn't miss against expectations. Now, again, Novo caused some issues with HIMSS. Yesterday, I was praising HIMSS because it went from 55 to 64, and it's like that entire earnings dip was eaten up within almost like 30 minutes. And then it came right back down to 56 when Novo announced a bunch of lawsuits against compounders, HIMSS also being a compounder, and that kind of scared the market, and that took HIMSS back down. So Novo seems like they're having a bit of an identity crisis. They ended up creating some amazing products, but those products have been replicated in a variety of ways. This is a very big company, by the way. It's still a $278 billion company that's lost, I believe, 50% for the year, if I'm not wrong. And given all the lawsuits and their strategy of just like suing these smaller competitors, 46% for the year, Novo's down. It feels like they are struggling to figure out exactly what their path is moving forward. So again, EPS and revenue growth, not bad on Novo. It's just they missed against expectations. And then these lawsuits, I think, are kind of an overhang in terms of where the stock's going to go. And maybe a little bit of karma. I mean, they really did kick HIMSS to the curve, and HIMSS felt pretty disrespected. And Andrew Dudum, the CEO, said, hey, this is just big pharma being big pharma. Like, this is not us screwing Novo. We're not doing something unethical. This is just big pharma realizing their profit margins can't stay as strong because there's other alternatives for people to be able to get a drug without being stuck in the monopoly of buying a pharmaceutical company's drug. And as a result, they're coming after us. And that strategy has not worked out for Novo. It really hasn't. HIMSS has recovered twice from the fall, and HIMSS is up to 55. It was at 40 at the worst of it when Novo announced they were breaking ties with them. And given how volatile HIMSS is, I would not be surprised if this thing gets back to 64 pretty easily. But Novo seems like it's in a little bit of a tougher situation on convincing the market what they would do. Did I say curve? I meant curb. I meant kick to the curb. Did I say curve, bro? Goodness gracious. I meant kick to the curb. At this point, when I say a phrase and I mess it up, you guys just have to assume I'm saying the real phrase, even though you hear like one or two words that are wrong in the phrase. Because there's like one phrase every day that I'll be sure to mess up. And then you had Zeta. So Zeta crushed. I don't know enough about this company. To be honest, I really have not had the time to go super deep into it. But from what I'm looking at on the headline metrics, they crushed. EPS, 6 cents away from profitability. They beat by 14%. Revenue beat by 4%, 308 million versus 296. Revenue's up 35% year over year. EPS is up 63% year over year. They bought back $85 million of their stock. The company's only worth $4 billion. They're doing buybacks and they're only worth $4 billion, and they're growing top line. I mean, to me, that's very exciting. It's kind of worth looking into. At its core, I believe they do advertising and marketing analytics. That's like the extent of how I understand their business, but they have developed a bit of a retail army. People are excited for this one. It's up 15%. I don't know if it'll be an Oscar situation where it has, some momentum and then it dies out. These earnings look very different from Oscar's earnings, and so I think that momentum could sustain itself. But it also is a small company, and you could have a lot of people just using it as a trading vehicle to be able to trade up or down and don't really care about the investment thesis. But it's up 15%. And so you got some green on Zeta. So those are, and then we got Disney. This is kind of the last earnings that we have today. Disney 116, that's down about 1.2%. I believe they missed on revenue, but beat on EPS. And the street kind of just doesn't care. Nope, the opposite. They beat on EPS 12%, but they missed on revenue. Revenue miss is very small. Revenue's up 2% year over year. EPS is up 16% year over year, 161 versus 144. I don't want to say I've been a Disney bear for the past couple years. I've just not been excited about Disney. Like I would never short Disney or like bet against Disney going away. I just, in the age of Netflix and YouTube, Disney to me is a content play. And I do feel their IP is, and I know a lot of you that have kids and, you know, your kids watch Disney Plus and Bluey and all that stuff. I get it. That's the pushback against my argument, but I just don't think their content's that exciting. And I don't know if, you know, the Avengers is going to last the test of time and allow them to continue growing. So I don't see the content play for Disney. The parks business is whatever, but that's fully valued into the stock price. Like to get this thing to really move, remember, this thing was $250 back in 2021. So it's completely not reached. It's never had a chance to reach its all-time high. And they had a leadership mess up. You had Bob Chapek, then Bob Iger came back in. I don't know what they do to take this stock back to the levels that it was at years ago or really deliver shareholder value, because I just don't believe that much in the broader vision for their content. They are up 6.7% year to date. So they're up about 7% on the year. Now, there was a deal with NFL and Disney. I believe NFL, let me pull this up right here, is taking a 10% stake in ESPN, which Disney owns. Yeah, so NFL is going to be buying 10% of ESPN. And Disney obviously owns ESPN and Hulu and all that stuff. Again, that's cool, but it's like ESPN is also going through an identity crisis. Like a lot of people that get their sports news, if like on YouTube channels, right? And so if you're seeing the cable linear advertising model start to die down, and ESPN started ESPN Plus, I don't even know who subscribes to ESPN Plus. I mean, realistically, how many people are they really, you know, getting to pay $10 a month to watch sports content on ESPN? Like, you know, you got the Fubo stuff in there as well. Not saying sports is small. It's just, is that the next growth curve that was as massive as it was in the early 2000s? I don't think so. And so it's just not that exciting. Doug says they have to stop making Marvel movies with $1 billion budgets and considering $400 million box office success. Yeah, I mean, movies in general, right? Unless you have an amazing movie. I mean, put in the chat, when's the last time you went to a movie theater? When's the last, like, I haven't been there since Oppenheimer, and I almost fell asleep during Oppenheimer. So it's just one of those things where, is content really the play here? And if content's the play, you buy Netflix. You know, you buy Google for YouTube. Like Disney to me just seems so outdated in terms of their content. Wow, you guys go to movie theaters. There's a lot of people that said a week ago. Okay, that's, well, Superman came out. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so a lot of people care about Superman and Fantastic Four. I heard of that movie. I don't really know much about the Fantastic Four saga, but in general, outside of Superman, right? Like, how many new movies are you going to watch? Like, it's not that easy to say that people are out there every single week watching a new movie. Also, what's the best movie that came out this year? Like, what's one of those, like Oppenheimer? Like, has there been an Oppenheimer or Barbie type of movie in the past couple of years? Because Oppenheimer and Barbie, like I didn't go to the theaters since like 2018, and I went in 2023 to watch it because I was like, oh, I have to watch this because everyone's talking about it. And we've really had a movie like that. F1? There was an F1 movie? Oh shit, there was. Brad Pitt is in this? Dude, I did not know there was an F1 movie. What? When did this come out? June 27th? Okay, I guess. Why did I even start talking about movies? I know that I can't talk about movies. Goodness great. Well, all right, so cool. F1 and Superman are your movies. Dune 2 came out? Is that with Timothy Chalamet? Okay, I should just never talk about movies again. I should just never. Well, this was 2024, but yeah, a lot of people went to watch this thing. Anyway, my point is, I don't think that many people care about Disney's content, and their box office hits have not really been hits for a while, which is why I'm personally not buying Disney. Even if you guys are going to the theater every day. Okay, Top Gun Maverick, that is a good one. That was 2023, right? That was I think Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, that was 2022. Okay, so that was a while ago, but still, that was a good one, even though I didn't watch it. But everyone I know tells me that's an amazing one. So Anyway, that's what we got for Disney. Let's head over to the Uber CEO and see what he had to say. Now, on Tesla, he did make an argument around the value that they will have when it comes to competing with autonomous vehicles. And he said that he thinks they're in a prime position to be able to deal with Tesla. So let's just take a listen to what he had to say, and then we'll keep going from there.
It was just, I think, earlier this week that Lyft announced this deal with Baidu. Really the first time that you'll see their app internationally?
Well, I think the Baidu deal was really about autonomous. And the promise of autonomous is to open up, what we think is $1 trillion TAM. As you know, Andrew, we are one of the leaders in terms of autonomous. We're working with Waymo in Austin, where we expanded our operational domain. We launched in Atlanta, and it's been a great launch. The average Waymo in Atlanta is busier than 99% of drivers in Atlanta as well. And we're working with players like WeRide in Abu Dhabi, Wave in the UK, Baidu outside the US, and Nuro and Lucid here in the US. So we're very excited about the autonomous trends. I think before I was on, we were talking about AI. This is physical world AI, right. And we think it's going to be a huge trend going forward.
What do you think about the I don't know, I wouldn't call it an experiment, but maybe it's an experiment. They're early days. Tesla in Austin, you obviously have your own data. You're seeing them as a potential competitor, maybe as a partner in the future. I don't know how you think about them these days.
Oh, I think it could be a competitor, could be a partner. And when you're talking about $1 trillion TAMs, there will be no winner take all in this marketplace. It's great to see Tesla in the market. They're taking their time and they are making sure that they're expanding in a safe way. We've always believed that the potential in self-driving is for these cars to be superhuman in terms of safety. And I think that's a welcome thing, whether it's a Waymo or it's a Tesla or it's a Wave, all of this competition.
So he says there's $1 trillion TAM, there will be no one winner, and Tesla could potentially be a partner. I don't know if Elon agrees with those statements, but that is Uber's perspective on the autonomous revolution. Here's Lisa Su. She's live on CNBC right now.
First half of the year, very strong second quarter, 32%, year over year growth. And we're guiding for a very strong second half of the year. So I think the business is really firing on all cylinders. This question about China, first of all, I have to say, the Trump administration has been working closely with us to really think about how we get our AI chips proliferated across the world. And we appreciate that. I think progress has been made. I think there was some speculation about licenses being granted, and the licenses are in process and under review. And we're working closely with the administration, but they're not yet granted. And so we did the prudent thing and did not forecast China revenue in the third quarter. But that being the case, we're talking about 28% year-on-year growth for the coming quarter, 13% sequentially. So we're excited about the second half of the year, frankly. There's a lot of positives in the business overall.
I don't blame you at all for being excited. I was going back and forth with Ben Reichers from Elias, obviously a big supporter of yours. We were talking about how you did say, and this is in the call from that we just got, that you're using, and you've used this number before. Looking ahead, we see a clear path to scaling our AI business to tens of billions of dollars in annual revenue. I care a little bit more about that than I care about China. What could that mean for earnings per share? Do you think $9, $10?
Well, Jim, I think what we've said before, and look, we are at the very beginnings of just a tremendous AI opportunity here. AI is the most important technology over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And when you think about what it's doing for all businesses, all of our lives, how we do research, how we really live, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. From our standpoint, we think we have an extremely strong portfolio. And yes, absolutely, we think tens of billions of dollars is the opportunity in a market that's going to be, let's call it 500 billion plus over the next few years. So I agree with you. I think the opportunity is right now.
When you're talking about 2028, I mean, we're talking therefore like maybe that NVIDIA has $500 billion in revenues.
Well, I think I should stick to our revenue. I think our revenue opportunity is certainly, tens of billions of dollars over the next couple of years. And what we see right now is people are very excited about our new portfolio. We just launched our MI350 series, which is, very, very competitive. versus Blackwell. And then we're on our way to, in 2026, a very competitive MI400 series. So, we're on this annual cadence of new products because AI is moving so quickly. I think we see customers, you saw a number of new models come out that show us all of the capabilities of putting AI everywhere in cloud and edge and client devices as well.
Lisa, it's David. For those amongst your investor base that are focused more on the short term, they expressed to me perhaps some concern about the quarter or the guidance in terms of what we're talking about when it comes to data center. The $400 million beat, gaming, they say. And in fact, they wonder whether you came in a bit light on data center. And therefore, when they look at a $15 billion revenue number for data center in 26, they wonder whether, in fact, you can meet that. Can you address any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, David. I would say that our data center business is doing extremely well. You guys heard all of the latest, CapEx forecasts from some of our largest customers. What we're seeing is there's a need for compute, and we are the high performance computing company. We've seen a very strong data center CPU results. We're seeing good forward-looking forecasts from our customers. We're very pleased with our new MI350 series adoption. So we see actually an inflection point in that revenue as we go into the third quarter. So I think the data center business is actually the main driver of our growth. And we look at that as sort of the opportunity in front of us is to really be that computing foundation for the largest hyperscalers going forward, as well as a number of the AI companies right now who are investing significantly to make sure that they have enough compute to lead in the market.
Yeah, the numbers are staggering. But when you talk about an inflection point, can you explain what you mean?
Yeah, so we talked about when we look at our sequential growth, double-digit sequential growth, we're going to see double-digit growth in our data center business. That's actually a significant driver of our MI355 going into production in June. That ramps into the second half of the year. So I think all of those are very positive signals.
All right. So again, Lisa Su, incredible CEO, rockstar CEO. She's answering the questions the right way. It's just she's not really guiding for the type of growth that you're getting from NVIDIA. Now, again, NVIDIA is worth $4 trillion and AMD is worth $250 billion. So there's a difference there. That would have been my response to Kramer, by the way, if I was Lisa Su. And he's like, well, NVIDIA is doing $500 billion in revenue. I was going to be like, yeah, but Kramer, NVIDIA is worth $4 trillion. We're not. So like, why are you bringing that up? I'd be like, yeah, but they're worth $4 trillion. What we're going to do $500 billion in revenue and we're a $250 billion company. What are you talking about? However, the underlying concern I think some people are having is that data centers are growing 14%. And if they continue to grow low double digits, which I don't think so, I think they're sandbagging that. I think there's too much CapEx spend going around for that to only grow at 14%. I think it should be minimum 20% over the coming quarters, at least Q3, Q4. Then I think the stock gets some momentum. But 14% growth going into Q2. I mean, if they put up like 25% growth or something last night, this stock would be trying to push 200 because that would have been a massive beat. But they didn't, right? And so the reality is if they didn't, the market is now just waiting for them to eventually do that. And I think all the evidence we're seeing in the broader CapEx landscape believes that, signals to us that we should believe that's going to happen. The question is when. And hopefully it's toward the end of the year. One of the reasons that could be happening as well is because we got this piece of breaking news last night. This was unbelievable to me. Actually, it's not that unbelievable, but it's the age of AI, and it quite frankly is also the reason why Palantir is getting the valuation that Palantir is getting. OpenAI just closed their valuation at $300 billion, but now there are private bidders that are willing to buy secondary shares from current and former employees at a valuation of not $300 billion, $500 billion. This would be the most valuable private startup on the planet. This is setting them up, I think, for a $1 trillion IPO. I mean, it seems inevitable if you've got people in the private market willing to buy $500 billion or buy OpenAI shares at $500 billion bucks. And the $300 billion round they just did was 8x oversubscribed. They raised $8.3 billion. ChatGPT is at 700 million weekly active users. OpenAI uses AMD and NVIDIA chips. They have deep partnerships with both those companies. So if you have people willing to pay $500 billion in the private markets for a company that's losing a lot of money, but quite frankly is growing like crazy, then I think that gives a little bit of a signal about why people are willing to pay $400 billion for a company like Palantir that is also growing like crazy, that is profitable, and that has relationships with the biggest companies in the world. Whereas OpenAI still is more direct to consumer, and they're trying to get that XYZ subscription per month that they can charge for people and eventually advertising to build out their business model. So I mean, it goes to show, when we talk about valuation, we've been on this kind of topic over the past couple of days about does valuation matter? And of course, valuation matters. But when you see people say, OpenAI, 500 billion, cool, I'll buy it. I mean, there's just so much money willing to be allocated to this AI space. And it's at least one of the reasons why you could understand why Palantir trades at the value that it trades at. Because in OpenAI gets 500 billion in the private markets. And that means a lot of other companies are going to get some high valuation. Speaking of companies that are building out AI, Arista and A-Lab, I mean, they crushed it. Arista's up 12%. They beat on the top and the bottom. And then A-Lab, Astera Labs, is up 21%. Now, Arista develops and sells cloud networking solutions, primarily focused on data centers, and that's been their major tailwind. And then A-Lab develops and provides semiconductor-based connectivity solutions, again, specifically focusing on cloud and AI infrastructure. So you're seeing a lot of these other companies that are not as big as an AMD, a Palantir, and NVIDIA, but that are crucial to being able to build out the ecosystem for making these semiconductors and these GPUs make sense. VST, VRT as well, from a data center perspective in the energy space, they've been doing very well all year. There's just a lot of opportunities to invest in. And maybe there's not enough in the public markets, which is why people are willing to pay $170 billion for Anthropic when it was $60 billion in March, or $500 billion for OpenAI. Because, I mean, realistically, what's the difference between $300 billion and $500 billion? Obviously, $200 billion. But if you're an investor that has a 10-year horizon on OpenAI and you think they'll have billions of users, OpenAI is going to be worth many trillions. And so if you have to buy it at $500 billion, you might say, screw it, I'll just buy it at $500 billion, hold it for 10 years. And if AGI becomes a thing, OpenAI should be worth like 10 trillion. Will that play out? Who knows? But if OpenAI is worth 10 trillion, you got to ask yourself, what is NVIDIA worth? And that's why I think these stocks are getting the type of bid that they are getting. So that's what we got on the AI names and from AMD. It seems like we have an update on what Trump is going to be announcing. We got 3 minutes until the market opens. Trump will be making an announcement at 4:30 p.m. And it looks like that announcement is going to have to do with Apple. And that's why you're getting some momentum. Okay, so Bloomberg is reporting Trump is going to make an announcement about Apple today. Trump is expected to announce Apple adding another $100 billion to its $500 billion U.S. manufacturing investments today. Apple stock likely is green on that. Apple is up about 2%. Apple's up about 2%. Yeah, that's the headline from Bloomberg. Look, I think Tim Cook is trying to make his relationship with Trump a lot better and get rid of the tariffs from China and India, specifically on the iPhone. Right now, we're in a little bit of a spat with India. Trump has not been the most nice about them publicly in terms of talking about how much they buy Russian oil, all this stuff. Apple now makes 17%, almost a fifth of all of its iPhones in India. The iPhones contribute to more than half of the quarterly revenue. So you can't have tariffs on iPhones in India. Like, that's just not good for net income. And I imagine if he's putting up $100 billion, that would get Trump to maybe get rid of the tariffs and make an exception for him. So a little bit of a kissing of the ring, $100 billion ring that he has to kiss. But I mean, look, $100 billion invested into the United States. Maybe there's some stuff Apple can invest in the US as well that is beneficial for them. I mean, I would imagine Apple, $3 trillion company, there's some areas they can find an ROI on in the United States, not just in China and India. And as a result, that can be productive for their overall brand presence and relationship in the United States. And so we're going to see what that announcement looks like at 4:30. Apple did make that investment in Materials Corporation recently, MP, for rare earth minerals. So that was, I believe, about a $400 million investment in it as well that they made in MP. All right, folks, we got 2 minutes until this market opens. Let's have all eyes on AMD and see how that one opens up. Again, after the bell, it is going to be madness. We are going to have a lot of earnings. There's also a lot of macro charts I did not show yet because we were going through earnings. So throughout the market open, we will go through that. Jose will be on in about an hour. We'll get his thoughts on AMD. You have DraftKings, Airbnb, IONQ, Duolingo, Elf, DoorDash, Lyft, Symbiotic, Dutch Bros, Honest, HubSpot, lots of companies. Zillow, important from a real estate perspective, that are going to be reporting today. By the way, Opendoor, crappy earnings, 4% revenue growth, and they missed on EPS. So Opendoor is down like 15% right now. I mean, it just wasn't a good quarter. Maybe 82 one day, but it's not going to happen today. So we'll talk about all those earnings after the bell. And then Trump will have an announcement at 4:30. So we'll have a lot of stuff that we have to do. And then we'll keep going from there. By the way, I fixed the Palantir bell. Palantir bell, this thing came off of it yesterday after we were done ringing it. So it's fixed. I'm not a handyman, by the way. I'm not like really good with my hands when it comes to, it took me 20 minutes to figure it, but I felt very proud of myself that I actually like fixed it because I'm more of a talker, not a handyman, but it is what it is. I fixed it. All right, folks, 9:30 Wednesday, August 6th. Thank you everybody for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. AMD goes down 6.3%. 6.3%. That is down 163.50. Let's see if there's any buyers that step in at that 163 range. It is down from about 175 yesterday, but it is getting hit based on the lack of data center revenue growth, in my opinion. $265 billion market cap. That is down 6.5%. NVIDIA is down 1%. Open Door down 22%, 197. As we open up the market, Dell's down 1.5, Marvell's down 1%. Where is SMCI? SMCI disgusting, down 17%, trying to get a little bit of a bottom at 46.87. Now at 47, but that one's still down. Palantir 172.63. That's also down about 1/3%, but trying to get a little bit of a green candle as well. Meta 768. That's up 1%. Amazon up 0.5%. Microsoft is up 0.6%. Where is Zeta? They had the best earnings out of a lot of companies yesterday, 19%. Congrats on those in Zeta. Incredible earnings. 19%. Shopify, wow. 20% for Mr. Toby Luke. Congratulations to those in Shopify. Absolutely demolished earnings, 31% revenue growth. I mean, they are the platform for people when it comes to selling things online. I'm sure some of you in the chat have used Shopify. Some of you guys have Shopify stores. That one just doing incredible. So you got Shopify right there. That is up 19%. Uber, they had a good earnings as well. Uber's down 1%. Disney missed on revenue. That one's down 2.7%. And then you had Unity, which also had a beat on the top and the bottom. That one's up 9%. So Unity's green. Shopify's green. Zeta's up 25%. Again, this is a small cap. There's not that many shares outstanding, 230 million. So you can have a lot of people pile into this right now. Open Door down 22%. Rigetti's down 2%. D-Wave is flat. IONQ is flat. Dell right there is down 1%. Axon, incredible earnings. They're down about 2%. They were up 15% yesterday. Grab's down 1%. Coinbase down 1/3%. Joby's down 0.5%. Where is Hoodie? Hoodie's down 0.5%, 104, kind of been chilling in that 100 range. Big Bear AI down 3%. Archer down 2%. And then SoFi kind of been stuck at 21. That's also down. Apple should be green. Apple is green. Again, that Trump announcement today will likely be important for Apple if that's the announcement we get. So Apple's green. Snapchat, there are 3 things in life that are confirmed: death, taxes, and Snapchat tanking below 750 on earnings. Snapchat right here down 22%. I think this is literally the 8th quarter in a row that they tank down to 750, and then you buy it and then you sell it at $10 before earnings. Like, it's like rinse and repeat with Snapchat. But Snapchat continue to not be profitable. You know, MAUs, DAUs, decent growth, but they just can't make any money off their core demographic, and that's why this stock is getting hit. Uber now down 1%. SMCI down 17%. SMCI getting hit. MP Materials Corporation. By the way, Palantir gets 174. MP up 2.85%, so that's green. And then Palantir 174, 176. We didn't get to touch it yesterday after we broke through it. We got to see if we get a shot, but maybe it is going to get back there. Shopify right here now up 19.5%. Robinhood 104, Apple 208. Rocket Lab earnings are tomorrow. That'll be a big one, 4408. You got Rocket Lab right there. ASTS, they acquired a company today for $64 million, if I'm not wrong. That stock's up 2.5. That stock is up 2.5. Where is TSM? TSM is, I believe, down on the day, or is that slightly up? TSM is down. Okay, that might be because of AMD. Even though AMD's numbers, again, were not bad. It just wasn't like phenomenal from a data center perspective. So it might be taking down some of the semis, but I don't know if those semis will continue to stay down just because of that. Now, Arista, again, we talked about Arista and Astera crushing it. Very important to the cloud computing data center ecosystem build out that we have when it comes to AI. A-Lab's up 26% and Arista is up 15%. Very, 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 very important that those companies are doing well and that they're showing growth, because that just means NVIDIA, AMD, et cetera, all those companies have the compute that's necessary for them to work, along with XAI, Anthropic, OpenAI, et cetera. Tesla goes green. Tesla 310. They got sued yesterday for the robotaxi stuff. Again, I think it's a nothing burger. They will probably have a lot more lawsuits in the future, but that is not really a reason, I think, for the stock to sell off. Remember, on Monday, Elon got paid $30 billion, 96 million shares. So he does have a little bit more of an incentive to work really hard. And so you got Tesla, that's green. Lemonade, that's also continuing its momentum from yesterday, closing in on $50. That's up 2.86%. Robinhood down 1%. And then Palantir, 174.43. I will check resistance at 175. Again, there was a lot of momentum that Palantir had yesterday to break through. It just had a ton of sellers at that 176 level. But, I mean, this is a quarter that just got universal praise. 175 is 100,000 shares. 100,000 shares for 175. Just sold my Shopify with 100% profit. Congrats. I mean, if you're taking some profits right here off these names, getting the momentum that they're getting, not bad at all. Shout out to Austin and Tess in the chat. Both of these guys are mods as well. Even though Tess is a woman, not a guy, but guys, I'm using in a colloquial term. That's a good word, colloquial. Even though I still can't say that right, but that's a hell of a word, colloquial. I still can't say it right, but whatever. Tess and Austin, they've been big on Shopify for a long time. So shout out to them. They've been preaching this thesis for a minute. 21% up on the day, $200 billion market cap. Not all-time highs. All-time highs is about 175 in the COVID era that I got to, when it was 1,700. Then they did the 10-for-1 split. But 153 is still very close. Still very close, which is not too bad. Oscar's going green. Okay, Oscar. Again, it was only down 2% in the pre-markets, which felt like it didn't want to tank. And now it's up 2%. So that's not horrible. Again, they missed on the top and the bottom, but still was not one of those quarters where you think they deserve to be down 10%, especially since they're down from 23 already. UNH is up 0.5%. UNH is up 0.5%. And that one is also green. OpenAI's tools to be deployed across the U.S. federal government. So we know that the feds are now giving OpenAI, Anthropic, and XAI a lot more money and latitude to be able to work inside of the government. And I think we're going to see a lot more of those deals, which is really good for the AI companies to get some of that government revenue. Tesla right there, 310. Arista up 14%. Astera up 26%. Oscar up 3%. Rocket Lab down a little bit. Again, Rocket Lab's had a hell of a run since the lows. So they have earnings tomorrow, and we'll see what they put up. And then Snapchat, now down 21%. 21%. Goodness gracious. Zeta. I think Zeta, let me check the short float on Zeta. This one might be getting squeezed a little bit. This one might be getting squeezed. They are a very small company. You can get a lot of people piling in. Yeah, short float's 15%. This one's getting a squeeze. This one's probably getting at least a little bit of a squeeze, 28%. I mean, those results, do they warrant 28%? Not sure. They definitely warrant a move. If this thing gets above 30, 35%, I think that's the short saying, all right, we're just going to cover it for today, and we're not going to mess with it. Also, Zeta, I didn't know this. They have about $1 billion in cash. The market cap's $4.8 billion. You're talking about almost 20% of the market cap in cash, and they're buying back stock, and they're going 35% top line. I mean, it's kind of compelling. It's kind of compelling. So maybe that one is worth looking into. But for those that are in it, definitely a great quarter. Snapchat right here, still down 20. Robinhood down 2. Palantir fighting for 175. It got close at 174.88, then got rejected. Now back to 174. Oklo down about 2%. Marvell down 2% as well. Grab's getting disrespected. So there's a couple updates on Grab that we can talk a little bit about later. But I mean, I talked about two of them yesterday, the deepening of their relationship with the Thailand government and with the Singaporean National Tourism Board. I watched the podcast last night on Grab. I will share the podcast. It's two guys that I found on YouTube. Their channel is called Chit Chat Stocks, rather small channel, but they did a full hour-long deep dive on Grab. It's a pretty good deep dive. And again, you know, I'm trying to get as many perspectives as I can from a lot of other people. At the end, just the spoiler alert, it's a buy for them, you know, and they did a really good deep dive. They shared their red flags, their green flags, all that stuff. It's trading cheap against its valuation. And the funny thing is about their valuation, they took away the financials because they said, hey, we don't even know how to value the finance business. So let's just look at mobility and deliveries and look at the growth rates. I mean, it's cheap. Stock price is not reciprocating. That's kind of one of the things about investing. You kind of just got to wait it out and wait till the market reciprocates. But I think it is cheap. And ultimately, if it continues to fall, I will be buying more. ASTS right here, that's up 1%. Rocket Lab, that's down 1.4%. And Hoodie is down 2.4%. Yeah, some of you guys know them. I think they have like 4,000 subs. It's a smaller channel, so I would definitely recommend checking them out. But really good deep dive. And I don't know, at some point, I think the market recognizes it. I've gone through the earnings at least like 10 times at this point, trying to see what's good, what's bad. And the only thing bad I can see is the margins, but the margins will improve. So that is more so a question of just, all right, load up while the margins are bad and get the benefits when the margins are good. NVIDIA right here going slightly red. It was red more. Is at 175. Now it's at 177. It's trying to get to 178. And maybe that one gets a bit green. Nebius, how's that one doing today? Nebius, that's down 1.2. And then CoreWeave, that is down 4.5%. CoreWeave looks like it wants to fall below 100. I mean, I know it's been doing a good job staying above it, but this was one of the most successful IPOs this year that got to almost $200 a share. Again, CoreWeave, does it deserve $200 a share given all the depreciation they have to do, given all the capex that they have to spend to be able to even get the revenues that they have? It's growing like crazy, but there are, other elements to CoreWeave's business that are not juicy SaaS margins that all goes to the bottom line. So that one is definitely taking a bit of a breather there. And then Figma, Tesla, by the way, 312. Figma down another 1%. Figma fell 20% yesterday, which I think is reasonable. Shopify, wow, 21% on Shopify. 21% on Shopify. Let's open up the stock draft because I imagine this has got to be helping Tanner today. He might be back in second place because of this. Yes, he is back in second place. So Tanner has Shopee on his draft. Matt's up 13. Tanner's up 9. I am down more today because AMD is taking a bit of a hit. I'm up 7.6. Steve's down now because of HIMS, I think, down 1%. And then Chris is down 2.29. So Matt, Tanner, me, Steve, and Chris is the order. And Shopify really crushed it this morning. I mean, they crushed 22%. Shopify has got to make you proud to be Canadian if you're in Canada. it's got to make you proud to be, because there's not that many Canadian companies that are out there executing like Shopify is. And it definitely has got to make you happy. Tanner says also my second biggest position in my actual portfolio as well. Yeah, I think for Tanner, it's NVIDIA, then Shopify. So it's definitely a green day for Mr. Tanner on Shopee right here. 154.10. And again, they crushed it. They grew GMV by 30%. They grew revenue by 30%. It's really, really hard to put up those numbers at the scale that they're at and given the maturity of their business. But, they were able to do it. And it's just hard to get bearish on that. Jose will be coming in about 30 minutes. Jose will be on in 30 minutes, and then we'll get his thoughts on AMD and get some of his thoughts as well. By the way, the video I was talking about on Grab, I'm linking it right there in the chat. It's a great channel. Definitely would recommend subscribing to these guys. Two dudes that, at least from the first video I've watched from them, understand how to kind of go deep into a company and break it down. So I would definitely check out their channel and subscribe for their deep dive. Shopify right here, 153. Grab's down 2. UNH is up a little bit. Oscar's up 1.3 now, just below 14. Tesla, 312. Where is Palantir? Are we still at 173, 173.30? Hoodie's getting smacked today. Not really getting that much love either. Spotify down a little bit. Duolingo. The Joseph Carlson pump has not really made a difference. This one does have earnings today. Who knows? Maybe Joseph Carlson looks really smart for buying before earnings. We're going to see. But that one is slightly down. Dave, that is a fintech, is down 17%. I don't know if they had earnings. I would imagine they did. I didn't see their earnings today, but that one's down 17%. This is one of the best performing stocks in the market over the past 5 years, by the way. Dave is one that I think a lot of people, including myself, missed. As much as we love Robinhood and SoFi, like Dave was the fintech that is outperformed. But this one's down 17%. Lemonade just above 50. There you go. 5% on Lemonade. 5% on Lemonade. Snapchat still down 20.5. Apple trying to break 210. Disney down 4. SMCI down 17. AMD down 7. NVIDIA down half. Open Door down 17 as well. HIMS is getting destroyed. I haven't even looked at HIMS. How bad is it? HIMS is down 4%. HIMS $3 away from going back to 50. This is based on the Novo lawsuits that came out yesterday. All right, there you go. I mean, you're seeing some weakness across the board, but the earning, here's the other thing about Shopify that's really important, even if you don't own it. Shopify is all about the consumer. Like, if I'm buying a water bottle from some random Shopify store over Amazon where I could get it, dude, Amazon's starting to do deliveries. At least, like, I haven't done this, but I've seen this over the past week. They do deliveries in the same day. Like, and I know this is probably not new news to a lot of people, but like last week I was ordering something. It came by 3 p.m. I ordered it at 10 a.m. I'm like, what? This is insanity. So my point is for you to pick a product on Shopify that'll probably take 2 weeks for delivery over a product on Amazon that you could find that's probably cheaper than whatever you get on Shopify. It means this is the life cycle of how it played out. You were probably scrolling on Instagram. You were probably compelled by some advertisement on Instagram, which is great for Facebook, which means the advertisers are willing to pay for consumers willing to click on their ads. You clicked on the ad, you went through the entire checkout, you ordered something on Shopify, which is great for Shopify, and then it got delivered to your house from FedEx or UPS, which is great for FedEx and UPS. That consumer willing to buy that water bottle from a Shopify website based on an Instagram ad they saw over going to Amazon to just get the same thing in a day proves that Shopify sellers have a compelling pitch to why you should buy from them, but it also proves the health of the consumer in this economy. I mean, if people are really willing to buy the amount of products they're buying from Shopify now 22% high of day, tells me the consumer's okay. Tells me the consumer should be okay. Zeta's up 25%. Zeta and Shopify kind of leading the way today. Uber, great earnings. I don't know why they're taking it down. Again, Uber just feels like it suffers from that robo-taxi narrative. I didn't see a red flag in the quarter from what I looked at. Uber Eats, I think, was a little light, but outside of that, that one is down 2%. Grab down 2% as well. Maybe Grab's down because the Uber's down. I mean, maybe that could be the reason. UNH right there down 0.5%. Oscar now back above 14. Tesla 313. Tesla getting a little bit of a move up 2%. Rocket Lab down 2. Hims down 4. And then Hoodie as well down 2% on the day. So that is red. Elf, they have earnings today as well. This one has been kind of a disaster. It's been up from April when it was at 50, but it came down from like 135. So this one's not really worked out too well. 109, they're going to have earnings today. Ulta Beauty is another one to look at when they have earnings. Figma's up 2.6% as well. And LEU, Centrus Energy, they crushed earnings yesterday. 30% revenue growth. They're up 22%. I am really not allocated to any energy stocks at all. And I feel every single day I need to be, because it's just a lot of them have run up so much this year. But it's hard to imagine this AI revolution without energy. It's really hard. And another company that is getting more demand, they are also in the nuclear space. They're up 20%. And they are green. Iren, is that one getting some love? Iren CEG is a good one as well. They signed a 20-year partnership with Meta. Iren's up 3.7% on the day. They're also doing some stuff with data centers. VG, we haven't looked at that in a minute. VG 1476. VG's had a nice run from 7. They are still down from the IPO this year. So if you bought it at IPO, you've had to DCA. But if you bought it at 7, you were up double. And then where's Big Bear AI? That one is down 3%. Look, I don't hate Big Bear AI. It's just I went through their numbers a month ago and their revenue growth is 5%. So it's just not the most compelling to me. I think they are a good company. They have a lot of contracts with the Air Force and the government, and they're getting more commercial growth. Personally, for me, it's not the most exciting given the revenue growth. But if the revenue growth starts to scale upwards of 5%, which is what I think a lot of the Big Bear investors are betting on, then is it the next Palantir? In my opinion, no. But could they grow to be like a $20 stock one day just because they're a $2 billion company and they could become a $10 billion company? Yeah, I don't think that's crazy to imagine. But that revenue growth has got to accelerate. So that would be my only critique of Big Bear AI. I don't see the revenue growth yet. But if you're buying it right now, you're probably believing the revenue growth is coming in the future, right? And that would be the argument, or at least the investment thesis right now to buy. Hims, 5281. That's now down 5%. And that one continues to be red. 30 and a wake up says, I'm back in the USA using Uber Eats every day, almost as good as Grab now. 30 and a wake up. He was actually on my channel a couple months ago. He stopped by to say hi. He was in Thailand for a while, and he was giving us some Grab DD. He used Grab like 5 times a day when he was overseas. I mean, dude, they are just becoming, in my opinion, a monopoly in the region, and it's going to take time. But look, the big thing on Grab, again, I will say this, is like, although I expect a move to happen towards the end of the year because they have too much cash and they're growing too fast, they're sacrificing margin for market share. And you've just got to be okay with that long-term playbook. And if you're not, then there's a lot of other AI names that'll outperform in the short term. But I really do plan to hold this for a very long time, just because I think it's not easy to find growth stories that are that obvious and that are actually showing the growth and that are accelerating and that have high margin opportunities like advertising and financial services that are getting ready to scale up at the back half of 2026. And it's trading at 40% cash. Like, so to me, the thesis is obvious, but that doesn't mean the stock price is going to move when I want it to move, right? And that's just where patience comes in. Shopify right here up 23%, new high of day, 156. And then Palantir, she's trying to go for 175. She's trying to go for 175. Xylofilm says Grab is really doing well. I've seen the growth over the last 8 years. Food Panda just left and Grab is flourishing. Yeah, Food Panda had to leave Thailand because they cannot compete because they're burning cash. Like, it's just not easy to find companies that are profitable, and the other competitors that can't compete, either they're burning a ton of cash, which means they're going to be dead in a couple of years, or they eventually have to leave. And Food Panda, which was a very well-known brand in Thailand, said, we got to go. We can't make money. This business is too competitive. And not to mention, Uber literally couldn't compete in Southeast Asia and sold their entire business to Grab, right? Like, that's the first piece of DD to understand why Grab likely survives and continues to get out some of these more regional players. And then it's just pure margin once they continue consolidating, which will take time, but I think that opportunity is asymmetric. 175. There you go. 175 on Palantir. All right, let's see. If we can get to 176, got rejected literally at 175 on the dot, now back to 174.50. So we broke through those 100,000 shares at 175. Now we got to see if we can crack through and get above that. AppLovin is up 3%. AppLovin is up 3%, 389. AppLovin has earnings today, right? AppLovin has earnings today as well. So that's important. So there we go. Julian, thank you for the 50 euros. Appreciate it. Do people in the States use DoorDash or Uber Eats more? In the States, how about we comment that in the chat? I mean, when I order from Uber Eats or when I order like food from one of the two products, I use Uber Eats more. I'm pretty sure most people would say Uber. I mean, we should do a poll on that. Let's see what people think. I think most people would say Uber Eats. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say it's Uber Eats. So let me know what you guys think in the States. In the States, what do you... Grubhub? Dude, I haven't used Grubhub since college, bro. I have not used it since college, bro. So I would say it's Uber Eats, but I could be wrong. 388 right there on AppLovin. There you go. 388. That one will have earnings after the bell. And then VG 1484. That is also green. Julian, again, thank you for the super chat. Julian, I feel like I've seen your profile on like Instagram or TikTok before. Your face looks very familiar. I feel like I've seen, I don't know if you're a content creator as well, but I feel like I've seen your face before. So let me know if you are, but if you're not, that's fine. Maybe I'm tripping, but I feel like I've seen your face before. 54% of you say DoorDash. 54. Okay, so I guess Uber Eats is, 60-40 DoorDash versus Uber Eats. Dude, Dash is up. Dash stock is up a lot. I did not meet him on Grindr. You guys are crazy, bro. Goodness gracious. DoorDash is up 50% this year. DoorDash is up 50% this year. By the way, that is not a pickup line. You guys see this? This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. The DoorDash founder is on the board of Meta, by the way. Is on the board of Meta. So you do have a really good relationship between DoorDash and Meta. And I mean, who would have thought DoorDash is up 50% this year? But I guess Americans are ordering a lot of food at home, and DoorDash and Uber Eats are the main winners. So there you go. DoorDash earnings, I think, is also later today. So we'll see what results they put up. Is C Limited a Grab competitor in the region? Yes, but they don't exactly compete in the same areas. So C Limited, their margins are a lot better because they're a much more mature company, which is why their stock has done very well. It's up like 100% over the past year. But they don't exactly compete with Grab in the same sectors that Grab is going after, but there are overlaps of competition. And also, here's the biggest thing I learned last night about Grab. Financial services. So I was learning a lot more about credit loss provisions and what exactly they are. And what it means for a company to enhance their credit loss provisions. And essentially, it's the idea of a company saying, hey, we could have bad loans, Zeta up 20%. And so we are going to allocate more money in case we have crappy loans and people, aka people don't pay back their loans, in order to basically cushion the fact that if loans go bankrupt or delinquent, that we have some money in there to cover up what's going on. So Grab would be EBITDA profitable on financial services, but they're putting in some heavy credit loss provisions because they're just making sure they're safe because their loan dispersals are up 44% year over year. Grab's going to have $1 billion in loans by the end of the year. They can ramp that up as quick as they want because they have a lot of demand for loans because they have millions of users, 46 million people a month. Here's the differentiating factor. Grab has all the data on who to give a loan to because everyone's using their app. So if a merchant wants $20,000, Grab can look at their income. They can look at their expenses because everything's done through the app and say, hey, should we give this person $20,000 or should we give this person $5,000? And so the ability for them to underwrite, not only using AI, but using the fact that they literally have all the proprietary data that's necessary to understand if someone can pay back the loan, and then they can automatically deduct the loan payment from their commissions that they get as a driver or as a merchant. I think that makes financial services very attractive for them in the next 2 years. Palantir above 175. And as a result, that should scale the financial services, which is very high margin, over the next 2 years. And that's where I also think the stock gets a bit of a re-rating along with the advertising part of the business. So that should be good for them. Yeah, 52% of you say DoorDash. I use Uber Eats, but I guess most people use DoorDash. Julian says, yes, I make videos, been in Palantir since $7 and been watching you since you had 200 viewers. Congrats on the success and keep going. Wow, that's awesome, man. That is awesome. Dude, congrats on Palantir. And yeah, that's super cool. Super, super cool. I feel like I've seen you like on Instagram or something like that. So Awesome stuff, man. Thank you for being part of the stream, and congrats on Palantir. And yeah, it's been fun. Palantir 175 now. It's got to be a lot of fun. So someone made a tweet last night, and they were like, "What did people who invested in Palantir at $7 realize? Like, what did they see that the market didn't see?" And my response was very simple, and I think a lot of you guys will agree with me on this response. It was carp. It was literally carp. Like it was the ability to think that this guy was going to pull it off. Palantir now 175.03. It was this guy, because I was 23 at the time. I was broke. I was down 80% of my Palantir shares because I started buying at 25. So at $6 for me to keep buying shares, to me, it was just, hey, Karp is authentic. He wants to be himself. And in a world in which being authentic is very rare, this is the guy who says what he wants, even though the share price was down, 80%, and shareholders were all pissed off. And you had to trust in him to pull it off. I mean, obviously, there was a thesis to the underlying business and what Palantir could do in terms of their revenue growth and their trajectory of being one of the most important software companies. But you're investing in people at the end of the day. And I don't think there is any Palantir at 175 without Karp. 175.50. Are we going for 176? Are we going for 176? The data center plays are heating up. ANET up 15% on the day. A-Lab, wow, Arista 32%. Congrats to those who are in Arista. Congratulations. I mean, my goodness, what a move, dude. That's a $43 move. It's a $30 billion company. It's not it's not like a multi-$100 billion company, but still incredible stuff. DoorDash is up a little bit. AppLovin's up 3%. Zeta's up 22%. C Limited's up a little bit. Elf up 1%. Uber up 2%. Hims down 5.6%. Hims has just been really annoying, but it is what it is. I think this is so volatile. It could get back up to 62 any second. But the Nova stuff holding them down. And then Robinhood trying to recover back to 104. Palantir 175.30. 175.30. Jose will be on in a bit. And we'll get his thoughts on AMD. And we'll see what he has to say as well. 175.20 now on Palantir. Hold on. Do we have a Trump? I think we have a Trump headline. Do we have a Trump headline? Hold on. Let me see. Is this the actual headline? I think it has to do with India. Oh, boy. All right, folks. You ready for this? You guys ready? Here we go. Donald Trump signs executive order imposing additional 25% tariffs on India. He tariffed India, 25%. All right, so let's see how the market thinks of that. Is the market upset about that? S&P got some red candles. I mean, 25% on India shouldn't be the worst thing. Definitely not the best. Is NVIDIA mad about that? No, NVIDIA's actually green. NVIDIA doesn't care. Google's flat. Hoodie's flat. What about Shopify? Is that high of days? Shopify, you do have a red candle. It was from 156. Now it's at 152. I mean, I don't know how much the market cares about it, but 25%. Now, granted, will that 25% on India actually last? Probably not. Because I think they will eventually negotiate. Oh, Apple. Hold on. Where's Apple? Because of that, Apple still holding on. Well, there's a little bit of a red candle right there, but still holding on. Okay, so I guess market doesn't care that much yet. We'll see if they continue to care, but there you go. 25% on India. He has not tweeted about it yet. He just tweeted about Chuck Schumer. We didn't get the India tariff yet, but that's the official notice from the White House. They also said something about Russia. They said India tariff is due to purchase of Russian oil. Here is the text. Okay, so they put out an executive order. Yeah, it's a long executive order, but 25. Okay, so it's official, folks. It's not just Bloomberg reporting it. It is official. Signed Donald Trump, 25% on India due to the purchase of Russian oil. I mean, all right. I guess we're going to have to see how the market thinks of it. Astera still up 30%. It's not up 32 anymore. So some of the highs of days are coming back down. Palantir is probably not at 175.50. No, never mind. Palantir doesn't care. Actually, no. I thought that was 175.50. That's 174.50. Sorry. So Palantir does care. I was like, if it's at 175.60, Palantir just does not care. Okay, so Palantir fell $1. That's okay. Let's see if that can recover back to 175. But you are down from 175.56, high of day, now at 174.60. The link to that Grab podcast, I will put it right here in the chat. Again, the name of the podcast is Chit Chat Stocks. They don't really care about Grab. They just did it as a deep dive. So, they're not like biased shareholders or anything, but I did think it was a good podcast. And there's just not a lot of content on Grab either. So, whatever content is out there, I am interested in consuming and seeing other perspectives. So there it is right there in the chat. You guys can check it out. Pinterest has earnings tomorrow as well. Pinterest has been kind of a dud on the past couple earnings. 2 of them, they went up like crazy. The other 2, they fell down. Wow, Palantir back to 175. Pinterest right here at 39. Pinterest user growth also is not amazing. It's a lot of, I think it's like 550 million MAUs, and you have a lot of essentially middle-aged women that use the product, and that's a great demographic for spending because women spend a lot of money, and middle-aged women tend to have more disposable income to spend, but it's not like a massively growing demographic that Pinterest has been able to show tons of user growth on year over year. So I wonder if Pinterest goes for margins versus user growth and just says, hey, like we're monetizing our users better versus growing our users. And maybe that could shift a little bit of the narrative of them as well. Apple's up 3%, likely because Trump is going to be announcing a $100 billion investment in conjunction with Apple tonight at 4:30. So we will see that executive order. That's what Bloomberg's reporting, and that's why the street seems to be excited about Apple. Oh yeah, I'll show the video. Dude, okay, so Grab sucks at Twitter, but their Instagram is great. And later at the end of the show, I won't show it right now, but they posted some Instagram reels of the CEO and the CFO, and their marketing team is really good. I wish they would embrace Twitter because that's where all the investors, like none of the investors are on Instagram. Real, I mean, like if you're really caring about investing news, like Instagram's for like fun stuff, or you might be like a generic like business mindset person and you follow like a page that tells you how to like wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and like become successful. Like that's what Instagram is for. The real investors that are like looking for DD, I think they're on X, and Grab just sucks at X, but on Instagram, they're great. And I wish they would embrace Twitter more. But yeah, they have some more videos. Then I'll show you guys some of those videos at the end as well. Southeast Asia is all about Instagram and TikTok. Well, that makes sense. They're marketing to their demographic there. But the investors are on X. That's what matters. India's preparing a new Boeing 777 to gift to Trump. Could you imagine, bro? They pull a Qatari move and they say, hey, 25% tariffs, or you want a jet? Tesla, wow, Tesla 315 up 2%. Why is Tesla getting some love? Let's see. Elon, by the way, hasn't tweeted about politics in almost 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know if you, oh, this is why it's up. Tesla, yeah, I forgot this in the morning. I saw this. Tesla's getting ready to come out with a new version of FSD, maybe FSD V14 by next month. Elon said probably ready for public release end of next month if testing goes well. If they can get this thing to be unsupervised, I would be very, very happy. And again, dude, I think FSD is a game changer. Like I took a nap yesterday for like 4 hours. I woke up, I had to go get something from the store, and I needed to do a 20-minute drive to my local Walgreens. My actual one's like 5 minutes away, but that one was closed. So I had to go to a 24-hour Walgreens. And I was half dead when I woke up at 10 p.m. I had to go get something, but I wanted to go back to sleep, but I literally had to go get it. I went in my Tesla, I turned on FSD, and I just got to chill in the car at 11 p.m. at night. And it just drove me without having to stress about thinking about driving 20 minutes to a Walgreens that I never even go to, but it was the only one that was open. And it's like, it's hard to describe how much just peace of mind you have when you don't have to worry about the drive. And eventually when it's unsupervised, I think it will be an absolute game changer. I think every single car is going to need self-driving. Like it's going to be like the iPhone. You're not going to be able to live without it. Now, Tesla is doing a horrific job at advertising FSD. Most people that have a Tesla don't even know that it offers FSD, but it's a game changer, bro. It's well worth the $100 a month. I mean, it really is. So hopefully FSD 14, if that gets even better, that makes the investment more compelling. App11 right here is up 4%. Astera and ANET continue to go green. Astera's up 31%, ANET's up 14%, and then Palantir trying to break 175.50. Trying to bake 175.50. Did you need an emergency plan B? That's funny. That is funny. I did at one point in life. I did. That's a story for another day, though. Webull right there, 1534. But I did at one point. Figma's up 7%. Webull's up 4%. Figma 84.91. Wow, Figma actually rebounding. That was down 20. Now that's up 7. So Figma, although I still think the valuation is stupid, like you got people that are coming in. The price of sales was 50 now. It's not 150, which is nice to see. DoorDash is still at 0.34. Palantir, let me check resistance at 176. But the big movers of the day, folks, are Shopify, Arista, and Alab. Those are the ones that have absolutely demolished earnings today. 176 resistance is 58,000 shares. 58,000 shares. No, we're not telling that story today. That's a story for a night in the apartment where we drink. We need to get some drinks and we need to have like a 3-hour stream just chilling in the apartment, which we will do probably like I think in the first 2 weeks of when I move in, we'll do that stream. And Amit thought he was pregnant and took a oh my gosh. We will do a fun stream. We'll do a fun one in the apartment. The thing is, we're not going to be able to stream until like September, bro. Because like as soon as I move in, I go to Miami like the day after. So like it's going to take about a week or two after I move in to like get everything set up and actually stream properly. But like going into September, we should be able to start the stream, or at least end of August, I would say. Centrus Energy, that's up 21%. Nvidia's up 0.5%. Nvidia goes green. AMD still down 6. AMD still down 6. And then Palantir, I really think she wants to break 176, dude. The way we broke it yesterday, that to me had a lot of buying pressure came in. You had the algos sell it off as soon as it touched, and you had probably some people take some profits there. But I went through as much equity reports as I could yesterday. I looked at as many talking heads as I could. The only concern people had with Palantir was the valuation. Like, that is the only thing they could say. Everything else was unanimous praise for a quarter that people have never seen before. And still, the stock is, pushing 412 billion in market cap. So it's, the valuation obviously is aggressive, but the fact that we're still up and we're not consolidating in like the 160s and we're pushing 175 just means that the market is willing to continue giving a premium because those earnings were just that good. Tesla right here, 315, that's up 3. Even Webull getting some love today, that's up 4%. And then Hoodie is trying to go green at 105.09. Hoodie is trying to go green. Okay, we might have S&P inclusion for Hood on Friday. We got to see. I think tomorrow we'll have confirmation if Paramount is getting out of the index, and if so, then Friday market close we'll be back doing the same thing we did 3 times this year, which is seeing if Hood can get into the S&P. So I think we'll have final confirmation tomorrow if Paramount is going to be acquired by Skydance, and then maybe Hood has a shot. It could also be AppLovin though. I mean, AppLovin, I can't be mad if it's AppLovin. AppLovin does have a higher market cap than Hood. That's up 4%. Iren running a little bit as well. Iren up 9%. Wow. Iren, they put out today that they mined like 700 Bitcoin. I think that was the press release they put out. Iren breaks 18, and so that's why that one got some momentum. Speaking of Bitcoin, this is Tom Lee yesterday on our new podcast. Might shock some people, but or surprise you. He said MicroStrategy will become the largest company in the stock market one day.
Michael Saylor is changing the reality of the stock market. And the reason is that he probably will end up being potentially the largest company in the stock market. Okay. Especially if Bitcoin goes to 1 million. Yet he doesn't generate GAAP net income to justify it. He's based solely on the value of his balance sheet. And, but that's not new to history, because when I graduated college, the biggest stock in the S&P, a top 5 name was ExxonMobil. And it was top 5 for 28 years, 30 years, like an entire generation. Graduated, worked on Wall Street. A top 5 name was a company that was only valued on the value of its oil, not on its net income. So like MicroStrategy is like replacing Exxon in lore, because, for a whole generation, people said Exxon was the biggest company, but you don't value it on earnings. Well, MicroStrategy could be one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's valued on its Bitcoin.
Wow.
Look, I think MicroStrategy will do well if Bitcoin actually gets to that level, but it is going to require Bitcoin getting to that level, right? Until that happens, I mean, I don't know if MicroStrategy is really going to be able to get that much momentum. Shopify, by the way, 153.89, that's up 21%, and then Hoodie 104.94, that is also green. By the way, I'm probably not going to sell it now, but I am thinking of selling my Misty, and the reason I'm thinking of selling my Misty is because it's not a large enough position, in my opinion, to actually hold in my portfolio. It's 500 shares. It's 10 grand. The dividend is like $600 a month. I could use that 10 grand, I think, to yield more premium from buying shares in Hood or Palantir with that 10 grand and just selling at the money covered calls versus giving it up to the Misty people. Again, I love the concept of yield max. It makes a lot of sense. And if I had like a $50,000 position, I feel like I would hold it, but I'm not selling it right now because my average is 21. I'd rather wait for it to get above that average, but it's just, I'm not adding to it is the thing. And if I'm not adding to it, I'm like, all right, well, this is just not a big enough position to look at every day. And it just doesn't matter that much. So if you guys, if someone has a ton of Misty, like I understand it making sense. But for me, I'd rather just like put that 10,000 into Hood. I'll sell one call at the money at Hood every week and manage that call. And that would yield me closer to like $1,000 a month versus Misty. Now, granted, if MicroStrategy goes to the moon next month, Misty's going to have a much better dividend, but I kind of feel like just managing it myself is not the craziest thing in the world. So not selling it out. Yeah, it's low maintenance. Yeah, I mean, it's low maintenance. So if you buy it and you just don't have to worry about it, then that's the reason you buy it. But given I actively manage my positions, I feel like I might just not keep it. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you guys know if I sell it. But I bought it at 21, so I'm down $3 a share. I'd rather sell it break even versus even though right now I'm basically break even with the dividends, but I'd rather sell it above. All right, Palantir is trying to go for 176 again. She is really toying with breaking above 175.50, and if she does, then I think 176 is very possible. But it's up 1% here. Can you talk about Duolingo? So, I mean, again, look, the reason I picked Duolingo for my ETF draft is because I think their growth is phenomenal. I think tonight they will put up even more phenomenal growth. The headwind that Duolingo is facing is people are thinking AI is going to commoditize the entire business. AI is going to commoditize the entire business. It's $600 a month. It's $600 a month. Remember, yield max it's much more aggressive on the premium. So $600 a month, not $600 a quarter. So on $10,000, it's yielding about $600 a month. The thing about Duolingo is people are saying, okay, well, why would I use language learning apps if I can just like ChatGPT language transcriptions if I'm like in a different country, and then this AI can tell me what someone's saying and then respond to that person? Why do I need to learn a language? I think that argument's kind of stupid. I think that like if you want to learn a language, AI will be a tailwind to help accelerate and accentuate your ability to learn a language. If you don't want to learn a language like me, and I go to I don't know. I go to Japan and I need to speak Japanese. Like, yeah, I'm going to use ChatGPT to be my translator because I don't really care about learning about Japanese. But if you actually care about learning about Japanese, I doubt ChatGPT or Grok is going to be like, well, I don't need to learn about it anymore. Like, I don't see that argument. I don't think it makes sense. Like, if you want to learn a language, you're going to learn it. You're self-motivated enough to actually learn a language. And if you're lazy like me and you don't care about learning it, then you're just going to use AI. But I don't think that's reducing Duolingo's total addressable market. So I think if that's the reason this app, and I think JP Morgan actually put that in the report, they're like, hey, we think AI could be like a headwind for them. I fundamentally disagree with that. I'm like, AI is just going to make their product better and better and better. They already have such a sticky product. They're growing 40% DAU, 60% MAUs. Their monthly subscriptions are going crazy. Top line revenue growth to 45%. It's a growth stock. It's expensive. But I think AI is the tailwind. So I wouldn't be buying it before earnings today because, I mean, I just have no idea what's going to happen. But I do think in 5 years, it's a much larger company. Most Duolingo users will tell you it's garbage for actual learning. LLMs can cater to you also. Okay, so here's the thing. This is people make the same thing about Grab. There's some people like, well, Grab's garbage. I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm looking at numbers that's telling me it's not garbage. So if you tell me most Duolingo users will tell you it's garbage, but then I'm looking at 60% daily active user growth. Those most users are just an anecdote. That's hard for me as an investor, like as a real investor, to be like, yeah, there's an issue here in Duolingo. Most people think it's crap. Or there's an issue in Grab. Most people hate it. Like, Grab is 46 million users. For some reason, they keep getting 1 million users every quarter joining the platform. Like, I guess that's not crap. Like, there's some, so I don't know. We got to see it in the numbers for me to think that the platform itself is just like horrible. Even if some people have a bad experience with it. Palantir back above 175.50. All right, she's trying, folks. She is trying. 176. The resistance is 60,000 shares. 60,000 shares for 176. Any thoughts on Fortinet? This is not my favorite play in the cybersecurity space. That would be CrowdStrike, even though I don't own any of them. I owned CrowdStrike very briefly last year. But Fortinet's operating margins took a little bit of a hit last quarter, if I'm not wrong, but they beat their guide. So I think they got punished last quarter for a silly reason. I don't know enough about their business to know what to expect them to put up this quarter, but cybersecurity in general is catching a massive bid, even if not from a stock price perspective, because I know the sector is kind of down over the past month, but more so from a demand perspective, because we're seeing what's happening in AI and the amount of cybersecurity hacks that are going on across the world. So I think long-term Fortinet's going to be fine because every cybersecurity company is going to be fine. By the way, if you want to own cybersecurity, HACK is the ETF, HACK. You could also just buy that and go to sleep and not worry about picking individual names. So that's my thoughts on that. Trump announced 25% tariffs on India. It's not 50%, unless he changed it to 50% within the past 5. Hold on. Are we about to go to 176 Palantir? Are we close? Are we close? We are very close, folks. We were 2 cents away. No, I think we cracked it. No, we cracked it. No, we cracked it. Hold on. What's the high we hit? We hit, hold on. Let me see. Today, 176.08. We hit 176.08. There you go. Boom. Boom, baby. 176.08. All right. So it got rejected right at 176.08. I think it's going to come back. That is there's a lot of volume coming in. 18 million shares. Yesterday it was 27 million. So still decent amount of volume. And that's 176 for the second time in about 48 hours. So I think we cracked that again. And then maybe we can make some room above 176.33, which was the all-time high. Wow, dude, this is incredible. Because it's not like the market is super booming today. S&P is up 0.22%. You got individual stocks that are moving well. So Palantir is still holding on to momentum from yesterday. Is pretty incredible. Hims right here down 4%. Uber's down 3%. Dave's down 20%. CoreWeave's down 3%. Nebius is down 1%. UNH goes red, down 0.5%. Palantir trying to crack 176 again. And then you have Arista and A-Lab still crushing it. A-Lab is up 33% and Arista up 16%. Pretty amazing. Grab, they're taking her down. The other thing I think is happening with Grab, guys, is I think it's getting manipulated. I think there's a lot of funds that are accumulating it, and they're keeping it in a range because they know there's going to be an announcement with their cash. They know there's going to be a massive Q3 guidance raise, theoretically. They know there's going to be some acquisition coming up, and they're just holding it down. So that could also be something that's happening. Maybe that's cope on my end. But I don't have a fundamental reason after those earnings why the stock should be down. I just don't have one. And so it is what it is. Ultimately, going to have to hold out and see how this one plays out. Palantir right here, 175.83. Again, trying to get back to 176. Dwayne, thanks for the $10 super chat. Admit I bought the same spread you bought of Grab expiring January 27th. I'm thinking of hedging and buying at these levels, 550 to 750 spreads as well, in case it doesn't get to 10. Am I crazy? No, you're not crazy, but just one thing to understand if you buy the spread. The reason we buy the spread is to intrinsically hedge against our downside. So your spread does not need to get to $10. Let me say that again. I'm in the $750 $10 debit spreads, which means I bought the $750 for Jan 2027. I sold the $10 above it. It just has to get to $750 for you to be green. So if you do on Robinhood, it's very. I mean, I'll show it right here. On Robinhood, they do a simulation of the option. That's why I like spreads. You don't need to get to the short end of the spread, aka $10. You can if you get to at least $750, you will be green. And if you're $750 by at least December 2026, which is 1 month before the contract ends, you will still be green. Even if it's like green by 2%, you'll still be green. Now, if it gets to $750 by mid next year, you're going to make about 100%. It obviously gets to 10, you make 700%. That's the reason I like the spread. But yeah, I'll show that simulation in a second. One way to hedge is just be able to get Grab above 750 in order for it to get its momentum. Which I think in a year from now, I think it should be at least above 750, even if it's not 10. And you should still be able to make some good money based on where the prices are trading at right now. 176.20. All right, folks, we got 10 cents. We got 10 cents to break above all-time highs. Let's see. Let's see if she can do it. She is literally 10 cents away, 176.16. This has been a remarkable 48 hours for Grab. I mean, I finally got some sleep last night after basically not sleeping for 24 hours. It has just been insane. Absolutely insane. 176.25. All right, you got about 10 cents. You got about 10 cents to break. Yeah, we got the 25% tariffs on India. So we know that news. Market kind of digested it and moved on from that, at least for now. Oh, I said grab. I meant Palantir. There you go. All-time highs on Palantir. There you go. 176.40. Maybe grab one day. We'll be at this level, but that's a long time from now. We've got to enjoy what we have in the moment. And for all the people that have been here for the past few years investing for this moment is here. 176.40, breaking the all-time highs from yesterday at 176.33. And you know what's better than 176, folks? 177 has 32,000 shares. That is not a lot of resistance. The next bell ring is at 180, by the way. The big bell ring will be at 180 because we do it on the zeros and the fives. So we did it at 175 yesterday. We'll do it at 180 if we get there. I just wanted to see it break all-time highs yesterday because we got there for a millisecond and there was way too much volume for me to believe that we were going to get below 176 and stay there. And although we stayed there yesterday because you had a ton of selling pressure, it just felt like we were going to break through. And so I'm happy to see it break through. I don't know if we hold this, but I am happy to see there was enough volume to come in after that quarter to say, you know what, we are breaking this even higher. And it's really nice to see this. 176.50 right here on Palantir. Dude, this is kind of wild, bro. This is Jose will be on in 10 minutes. Jose will be on at 10:30. He'll be on in 10 minutes. This is freaking wild. Time to roll my 190 call. Yeah, I mean, look, I think 190 is okay given if it's like next month or this week, but who knows, dude? 170 has obviously got destroyed. And it is what it is. Now, granted, 170 should not be the hardest to roll. You can roll it up and out for like 3 months to like 210 or something. You know, there's ways to manage it. But I mean, you put up that type of a quarter. And the scary thing about Palantir, next quarter is going to be better. This is why Steve is buying, or at least this is why Steve is getting ready to buy more. This is why I bought I bought yesterday at 169 at 6:30 a.m. because I was like, this is not a quarter anyone can ignore. And like valuation, smaluation at this point. Now, eventually it'll matter if the growth stops, but the growth is not stopping for the foreseeable future. And Q3 is going to be 50% growth. And then 2026 might be 50% for the year. That doesn't mean Palantir has to go to $1 trillion, but that does mean there's probably going to be some people that buy in, which is why I bought yesterday. And I think that's why Steve's getting ready to buy, because you cannot just look at the market cap here when you see this type of growth. Even though I agree, the market cap is aggressive. But if you believe it'll be higher in the next 10 years and you want more exposure, that's why you buy. Astera still up 32%. Arista's up 15%. Palantir trying to go for 177. Fortinet's up about 1%. Duolingo's down 1.3. Hoodie just getting hit down 2%. Bitcoin and Ethereum going down. Not the best for Robinhood as well. Tesla 315. Zeta's up 27% on the day. Absolutely incredible. Shopify still up 20%. And then Palantir about 50 cents away from 177. Is Chris buying Palantir yet? Chris will not be buying Palantir. But I really don't think I'm going to lose that bet, bro. Like 25,000. For those that don't know, Chris and I have a bet now, 25,000 over the next 5 years, August 5th, 2030. He wins if Palantir touches 50 again, barring any like COVID 2.0, because then the whole market falls, so then it doesn't count. But if Palantir independently drops 75% from here back to $50 a share, I have to give him $25,000. I feel like I'm going to get the 25K, bro. Like, I feel like in 5 years, I feel like I could see it going to 100. Let me say that. I could see it going to 75. But for it to go all the way back down to 50 after a 175 to 75 drop, like, I just think there's going to be too many buyers that step in. Like, this thing goes down to 150, you're going to have buyers, you know, unless Palantir screws up their growth story over the next 5 years, which is possible. I think it's unlikely. Is it possible? Yes, anything's possible. Then I think we're going to be okay. I think it's going to be above 50. Even if it doesn't go to like 4 trillion or something, right? But I don't need it to go to 4 trillion. If he said 100, I wouldn't have taken the bet. If he said, oh, Palantir to 300 in 5 years, I wouldn't have taken the bet, because I can't bet for it going to some new level. And I definitely don't want to be super arrogant and say it can never get back to 100 again, because it could, right? Anything could happen. But 50, if it goes to 100, it has to fall another 50% to 50. That to me is like, okay, I'm taking that bet. I am taking that freaking bet. I feel like that one could be possible. The problem is that if Palantir goes to 200 to 250 within a year or two, it is extremely difficult to get back to 50. Agreed. And I'm not expecting Palantir to get to those levels, but is it possible? Yeah, especially if they keep putting up these NVIDIA type of quarters. SMCI, by the way, down 20%. Snapchat down 20% as well. And if this thing gets to 200, now it gets really hard for it to get back down to 50. Wow, 1 cent away. 1 cent away. Do we see 177? Do we see it? 176.97. Do we see 177? We are 1 cent away, folks. I got 176.99 as my high. It's 1 cent away. You got there you 177 for Palantir. From $7 to $177. My goodness. My goodness, dude. Take it in. This is what you take it in, dude. Take it in. If you've been here for a minute, take it freaking in. Goodness gracious. Read him and weep. Read him and freaking weep. The street cannot get enough of the little company that we thought 4 years ago was going to be big. And I don't think any of us expected it to be this big, this quick, but it's here. It is here. My goodness. My goodness. $177 for Palantir. Well, you know what's better than 177? 178 resistance, folks. 25,000 shares. 25,000 shares. 25,000 shares. Amid how much of the retail ownership buy the stock because they see the value, but they can't get it at their jobs? Yeah, there's a lot of you guys. Dougie, he's one of the people that I believe suggested Palantir at his jobs, and they didn't really take him seriously. Roy suggested Palantir at his job, and they didn't take him seriously either. So many of you guys have bought the stock thinking that you could go to your boss and say, hey, this could really change the company. And they still haven't adopted it. But the stock has done obviously very well for a lot of people. I mean, it has never been a good time to sell Palantir. You would think at 140, okay, I should take some profits. 150, it is like anytime you've sold Palantir, it's never been a good time. It's like, it is just incredible what this company has been able to do. And again, I don't really think this is retail anymore. Like, are some retail piling in after that earnings? Sure, I'll give you that. But when every single analyst besides Rishi, who gave us a $45 target yesterday, thank you to Rishi, upgrades it into the 150s, 160s. I mean, you got a lot of people that are saying, all right, so if the 150 is the thing that Oppenheimer is telling me it's worth, and it's 170, do I really care about $20? No? Okay, buy 1 million shares. Boom. And that's how a lot of these people with big pockets at these investment firms think. And as a result, they're piling in. They're piling in. Yeah, I think it's bigger money moving Palantir, dude. And if it is retail, well, retail continues to get rich. I mean, and then obviously the pushback is, well, retail will have to deal with the inevitable collapse. Well, is that collapse inevitable? Not saying pullbacks aren't inevitable, not saying dips aren't inevitable, anything can happen. But if they keep up the growth, is the collapse to 50 inevitable? I don't know. I don't know if it has to be inevitable. Absolutely incredible. Where's AMD? Is AMD getting hit? Oof, AMD down 8%. Goodness gracious. All right, so that one's getting hit. Again, not the best quarter when it came to data center revenue growth. That one's getting down 8%. So AMD losing about $35 billion in market cap right there. S&P 628, S&P not going red, but going flat. And then Palantir just chilling below 177. Below 177. Are they really going to give us more sub 100 hood pre S&P? Dude, by the way, I didn't mention it yesterday. I bought more hood yesterday. I bought 100 shares of hood yesterday. Yesterday, the earnings madness was so crazy. I forgot to mention it. I bought it at 104 yesterday. So I bought another 100 shares. So, yeah, dude, after those are, because I didn't get to do my hood buy after earnings. I saw the earnings. I said, okay, want to go down to the low hundreds. All right. Pre S&P Q3. By the way, the analysts are expecting freaking $1 billion of revenue for Q3. I looked at the estimates last night. So Robinhood's got to top $1 billion by Q3. I think they will. I was looking at their July metrics, or at least some of the preliminary ones, and I think they're on track to do that. We got banking coming out in the fall. We have the September active trader event in Vegas, and then we have S&P. I think I'm buying at 104. It is what it is. I'm not saying it's the best price to buy it, but I do think this thing is 120 by the end of the year. I do. And so I bought another 100 shares yesterday. Palantir right here, 177.39. That is, again, new all-time high. She's trying to crack 177. 178. 178 has 25,000 shares. 27,000 shares. 27,000 shares. Dude, I think I've also told myself at some point, you just double down on your winner. Like someone commented yesterday, after I bought Palantir, they're like, well, what's the next Palantir? What's the next hood? And I know we've been trying to find it, but I'm like, what if the next Palantir and hood are Palantir and hood? And you just buy more, increase your cost basis, and over the next 10 years, you'll be really happy that you have more ownership in these companies. Now, you've got to buy Palantir and hood knowing you could drop 10, 20%, and you have to be okay with that. Like I bought Palantir at 169 knowing, hey, I think it should go up after those earnings, but if I'm wrong, I can only be mad at myself. And I'm not even really mad at myself, but I can only blame myself because obviously the company is expensive. Robinhood, same thing. If it goes back to 95, I don't think it deserves to, but it's trading at an expensive level. I can only be mad at myself. I can only blame myself. But then you look at these earnings and you're like, well, why would the street sell it off? Unless there's something macro. And so far, into August, maybe Trump says something soon, but don't really see the massive macro tailwind or headwind for that to happen. Bike Pimp, thank you for the £100. Appreciate it. Once again, Amit, here's your cut. Thanks again for all your coverage, especially on Palantir. Bike Pimp, appreciate you. You have given many super chats over the years covering Palantir's journey. Deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate any money that you guys send. And thank you so much. And congrats on the journey. Congrats. It is absolutely incredible. Jem, thank you for the $3. Good luck with your 25K bet with Chris. Appreciate it. Hopefully we do well on that bet. I think in the next 5 years, we get to hold $50 at least on Palantir, but 5 years from now. And I intend to be doing this for the next 5 years. So I'm sure Chris will be around in the next 5 years as well. He'll be on my streams. So we should be able to see what this looks like in 5 years. Okay, real quick before we get Jose on, I just want to show you guys, wow, Palantir 176. Dude, is it about to go for 178? 177.60. 178 is 25,000 shares. All right, let me show you guys something real quick. Then we'll get back to Palantir, and then we'll keep going from here. So going back to the question, someone sent a super chat on the call debit spread for Grab. I just want to show you guys the simulation real quick. So I bought these spreads for 34 cents. They are trading currently at 23 cents. So I'm technically down 32%, aka $27,000 on these spreads. It's an $85,000 investment. That is my Grab spread strategy, 2,500 spreads, 2,500 contracts. If this goes to 750, which is the long end of the spread, you see how everything gets green? If it went to 750 tomorrow, I would be up 70 grand. And then all the way until December 25th, 2026, if Grab gets to 750, aka the long end of my spread, and this is applicable to anybody who's doing spreads on any stock, I will still be up $12,000, which would be a very bad return in 2 years. It would be 14%, but still I'm not losing money. If I'm below 750, that's when you lose money. Now, obviously, if it gets to 10, I get a nice payday of $500,000, 630%, and I make a decent amount of money, 540,000. But my point is, you don't really have to hedge by buying spreads at a smaller strike if the 750 of your strike, which is already the smaller, if you're worried about it getting to 10, it doesn't have to go to 10. That's why it's a spread. It has to go to 750, and at least you'll make something, which means you won't lose anything going into the last week of the contract. So you could buy different spreads to hedge, but I don't think you have to because it doesn't need to literally get to $10 in order for the spread to be profitable. 177.12 on Palantir. All right, folks, let's bring on someone to break down what's going on in the semiconductor world, especially on AMD. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jose. Jose, what's up?
What's going on, man? Good morning. Good morning. How's everything?
Good morning, brother. We know that this is your second largest position. You've done a great job covering it. I'll give you the floor right here. Why do you think this one's down 8% on the day?
I think the story is this is the next NVIDIA, right? I think that's the kind of the main story, Wall Street, and a lot of kind of bullish sentiments is for it. And I think that's the wrong story to look at AMD. I think AMD is definitely not the next NVIDIA, but it definitely has a lot of growth opportunities. Now, unfortunately, you can say, Jose, how could this be an AI story if in the past 2 quarters, data center market, which is kind of the core revenue of AI, be down sequentially? You kind of peaked on December. Why was March down? Why was this quarter down? I think that's a great question to ask. I would say AMD's prior chip, the MI300, was just an introduction, and it pretty much sucked. I'm going to be honest. I mean, NVIDIA kills it with their chips. So the MI300 was just kind of like getting your toes in the water. The next chip is the MI350, which is kind of coming out right now. It just started in June, so you only saw a little bit of revenue here. But Lisa Su and the team believes that the MI350, which is the MI355, will have a strong second half of the year, seeing year-over-year, strong double digits year-over-year growth. So I believe quarter 3 is that quarter that is going to give that that massive shift showing that this is truly an AI story. Again, I'm not saying this is the next NVIDIA. I'm not saying this is going to take, it's going to eat NVIDIA's market share. But as we saw from capital expenditure from all these big players already, the AI market is only getting bigger and bigger. And for AMD, a company of less than $260 billion market cap, I believe opportunity is definitely there for a multi-bagger in the long term of things. So data center market sucked these past 2 quarters. Definitely not the AI story that kind of a lot. There's even been some viral posts on Twitter the past few days kind of talking. And there's sometimes a little bit of lies. I keep hearing rumors that or discussions that Meta only uses AMD. That's definitely not true. And Meta is a huge user of NVIDIA. There are certain workloads that AMD's chips are being used for, which is great. But I think this quarter was the last quarter where we can make that argument. But I think next quarter is when you start to see that growth. They gave a great guidance for quarter 3, and that's excluding any AI chips from China. And we know the China market is kind of back open. The US government is reviewing licenses, but AMD's management wanted to be conservative and say, look, our guidance that actually beat Wall Street expectations by about $200-300 million does not even include any growth rate from the Chinese space.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Jose. And by the way, Palantir right here, 10 cents away from 178. Pretty damn incredible. I'll also get your thoughts on Palantir earnings, but incredible price action today on Palantir. Here's my question. Do you think the AMD community, which you are a part of, but you are a lot more level-headed than some of the other Uber bulls that I've heard of, because your biggest is NVIDIA. Do you think they were hyping up this earnings too much? Because when I saw those results and I saw 14% data center growth, it made me question,
You're like, what the heck?
What's all the hype about? So
exactly.
How do you think people are thinking of AMD, and do you think it was hyped up way too much going into earnings?
Yeah, I think this is why you have to make sure. And I'm usually pretty level-headed, but when it comes to the semiconductor market, I get happy to say I'm definitely one of the best out there. And congratulations, 178 here. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand the supply chain of how semiconductor chips get built, the progress, the time it takes. So many people saw the MI350 come out in June, and it's like, oh, look, all this inference market is going to pick up. All these cloud server revenue is going to happen. And it takes time for that. It takes adoption for these types of chips. And adoption, even in an accelerating market as AI, is still a few quarters. So I do think there might be certain AMD Super Bowls that are just not too familiar with the semiconductor cycle. I think you have to level some expectations. But I do see, I agree. I think it's true. You only see 14% year-over-year growth. I think next quarter, we're going to start to see that strength of ramping up. I don't expect any triple-digit growth rates for AMD. But 20, 30, 30%, especially in quarter 4. I think quarter 4 is going to be pretty amazing. And this company's MI400 chip, which comes out in 2026, is a big game changer. It's extremely, extremely crucial for this company, because being an NVIDIA bull, I think the MI300 sucks. The MI350 is okay. It's competitive. The MI400 is the first time that I can say that you are providing somewhat of a competitive product towards NVIDIA. So that gets me a little bit excited for AMD. I don't think it's necessarily the worst for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is going to continue to be dominate, but there is some strength for the MI400.
So in general, your argument is, hey, the price increases going into the latter half of the year, the growth guidance and the China revenue into the latter half of the year, along with the actual quality of MI350 versus their previous chip, that is what we should be thinking about as investors versus kind of the relatively light growth that we got in Q2.
Yeah, and like I said, the light growth should have been expected for most, though, if you follow the cycle, right? If you follow the cycle, if you understand that the AI trend, you can't expect multiple revenue growth rate for a chip that's just ramping up on June. It physically
and
can't
too many
happen.
people expected that too quick, is your argument.
Yes, exactly. Everybody's like, oh, the inference inflection point is happening for AMD. It's like, no, it's not. It will happen. It's just your timeline might be a few quarters ahead of time. So yeah, 179. Congrats.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jose, I'm just going to be honest right here. People are not going to be able to pay attention to whatever we talk about for the next 10 minutes. So I think we end it there because I just know the chat's not going to be able to pay attention. Like, it's just, the Palantir there. So if you're free on the market close, we'd love to have you on. If not, we'll have you on tomorrow morning. And
yeah, definitely. I'm definitely available. So just send me a time on X and I'll be back.
It's just every time you come on, you pump my hood in Palantir, and then it's like I can't even talk to you. So appreciate you, Jose. There's Jose's Twitter, Jose's YouTube. Make sure to check him out as well. But while you're here, just your thoughts on Palantir. What do you think?
I mean, I think earnings were great for as an AI investor, right? I mean, what are you seeing? You're seeing the adoption of enterprise with the AI ecosystem. At the end of the day, great for Palantir, but all that it tells me is NVIDIA is going to continue to get more demand from their AI chips as they increased their full year guidance mainly because of the commercial space. What does that tell me? Enterprise is waking up to this AI market. And I mean, I'm small Palantir. I'm not going to be extremely excited, but to me, it gets me super excited for the AI chip space because that's where I can see kind of that demand really heading to as well.
Right. Yeah. I like when I saw those numbers, in my opinion, one of the first things I thought was, wait a second, NVIDIA. Because all these GPUs that are being trained, that Palantir is saying, hey, we'll connect the LLMs to the value of the enterprise. That's justifying why NVIDIA built what they built, right?
Yeah. And so, because I mean, if you get all these companies, enterprises, they have hundreds and thousands of employees. All those thousands and hundreds of thousands of employees, some of these big companies are gonna be using an AI model. They're gonna need all this inference demand. They're gonna need the computational demand. It's just continuing to grow. So, to me, as a semiconductor investor, I like Palantir because of that reason. It gives me a lot of top level overview of what's happening in the enterprise space.
All right. I love it. Jose's Substack, whatthechiphappened.com. There's a lot to talk about with Astera, Arista, Skyworks.
Yeah, those are actually happening today. So article on those are coming out later today. AMD, Supermicro down 15%. Astera Labs up like 30%. So a lot to cover in that news later today.
Perfect. All right. We will talk to you tomorrow, Jose. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to that newsletter. I'll see you tomorrow. Later. All right, folks. We are seeing a decent amount of momentum. And you guys cannot be toxic, okay? You can't keep Jose here talking randomly because you associate him talking with the stock going up, but then none of you are listening to what he's talking about. Like, me and Jose can't have an actual in-depth conversation on these companies when none of you guys care about it, because I know none of you care about it right now, just for the sake of him talking so that Palantir can go up. Like, I know it's a joke, but like also we have to value his time. And, if he's talking to an audience, he wants the audience to care what he's saying. And none of you guys care right now about what he's talking about. Was Jose even talking? Yeah, it is what it is, dude. It is what it is. This price action is absolutely insane. 178.50. And it just busted 179, right? No, it 179 is only 12,000 shares. I think I put it in the chat. 179, 1,000 shares. No, we did, but we went 179.50. So we busted through that. So look, based on historical price action, Palantir now pretty high in their market cap, 420 billion. If you get what I'm talking about. I feel like 180 is possible. Yeah, nobody's listening to anything when Palantir's going crazy. Yeah, dude. And guys, I'm not going to artificially keep Jose on the channel because we have a superstition that him talking means the stock goes up and no one's listening to what he's saying. Like, that's just disrespectful to the guest. Like, if he's here, you guys should be listening to his thoughts because A, you respect him, but B, you should give him the respect of actually caring about what he has to say. But if he's just here for the sake of stock going up, like, that's just not, that's not the right thing to do when you have a guest on. So we'll get him on tomorrow and focus on what he has to say. 179.30. I mean, I got my big bell. This will be the first time we do the big bell 2 days in a row. If we crack 180 resistance, 135,000 shares. 135,000 shares. So maybe it is possible to see it happen today. Apple is up 4.5%. And then Palantir right here, 179.30. Dude, this is why I picked Palantir number one in the stock draft. You don't bet against your winners, bro. At 145, obviously it was expensive then. It's expensive now, but you don't bet against your winners. These guys let me take Palantir and Hood, and I'm sticking with my winners. I am sticking with my winners. And Sometimes your winners just keep winning. That doesn't mean every quarter's got to be amazing. Last quarter, we were down 10% after earnings, but this was one of those quarters where it was pretty incredible. Dude, we can't focus 180. Yeah, I know. It's very hard. I mean, same thing with Robinhood when it was breaking 100. It's hard to focus. I get it. When it's that close, it's really hard to focus. It could happen any second. It could literally happen at any second. Then whatever you're talking about, it's like, dude, well, the stock price just went to a new milestone that is beyond what anything could have imagined. And so it's there. It's a couple cents away. And by the way, when we're this close, I think we're getting 180. I don't think they're not going to let it break. 135,000 shares is not a lot of shares. I think they crack that. And I think we get above it. I think we do. Duolingo's down 1, Grab's down 3, Hoodie's down 3. A lot of stocks are down. AMD's down 9. What Jose did say about AMD and the previous ship not being that good, I think is very fair. And basically he's saying you should expect more growth, but you can't be hyper optimistic. And maybe that's what happened going into this earnings. But Palantir is still green, even amidst some of the red. Now, S&P is going green again. S&P was almost red. So S&P is up almost 0.5%. I don't know if Trump said, I mean, we know we got the India tariff news. I don't know if there's anything else there, but you do have a bit of a reversal. Look at that green candle on the S&P in the past basically 15 minutes. So you might have something allowing the broader market to go higher. Read it and weep, right? Read it and weep. Amit, would you consider selling everything else and only holding Palantir and Hood? You know, I've thought about it. I'm probably not going to do that because I'm not that degen, but boy, have I thought about it. That was basically my portfolio last year, 2025. It was literally just Palantir and Hood. Like, I think, yeah, almost like I think there was nothing. I can't remember I think I explicitly told you guys it was Palantir and Hood. And so when I saw Nvidia run or Tesla run, I couldn't feel that much FOMO because I'm like, I have Palantir and Hood. That's it. Those are my two horses. But now I've started to diversify a little bit more because I feel like, some diversification is necessary. But realistically, the diversification has been into two names, Grab and Nvidia. And Nvidia's been a big winner. Grab's been a big loser so far. So Grab, I'm having a much more long-term trajectory. I went through the Palantir Hood, stuck at $5 price for 2 years with them. And then I saw what happened. Not saying Grab is Palantir Hood, just saying eventually you have to deal with the pain of dealing with a dead money eventually for it to move higher, especially if you have a real thesis. And then Nvidia, I got a bit lucky on, to be honest. I mean, at 120 with DeepSeek, that was luck. And then really going heavy, that was definitely my due diligence. But realistically, it was, hey, I'm going down with the ship. I trust Jensen. And then after I started investing heavy, I got deeper into the Nvidia thesis. But it's really been Nvidia, Hood, Grab, and Palantir. And then recently Tesla, which I am just very thankful I did not go heavy in Tesla this year, because that one has also been a dud. But yeah, I think as the portfolio grows bigger, you definitely, to sleep better at night, diversifying is not a bad thing. 178.30 right here on Palantir. Elaine says, I am that degen. Elaine, for those that don't know, 60,000 shares of Palantir. Elaine, do you still have 60,000? Did you sell some? Did some of them get called away? But I think she still has 60,000, $10 average. Which means today, if you have all 60,000 times $179, holy shit. Never mind, 65. Elaine, you're sitting on 11 million. She's not single. She's 65. She's 60 years old, but her husband gets jealous that she spends so much time with me on the stream. He was jealous when she came to my meetup. I was like, good. He should be jealous. Dude, 60. Or Elaine, what's your average? Is it still 10, or did you average up a bit? Is it above 10? Goodness gracious, dude. Elaine, that means Elaine, when Elaine was 56 or 57, Elaine, did you put in your entire life savings? Like, you put in 600 grand basically to bet those 65,000 shares at $10. Was that your entire life savings? Was that everything? Or did you have that money to invest? Because if it was everything, I mean, my goodness, dude, like, just incredible. Just freaking incredible. 178.40 on Palantir, getting a little bit of rejection from 179.50. But these are the stories that make this journey so incredible. There are normal people like Elaine who said, I'm going to believe in Alex Karp and this company. I'm going to watch Palantir Weekly every Friday. I'm going to listen to what Arnie has to say and what Amit has to say, even though Arnie and Amit are not some investing gurus. They're just two guys who, try to analyze this company. And a lot of people went heavy in those early years. So Is Elaine's real name Nancy Pelosi? I sold my Hawaii home and put it into Palantir. Wow. There you go. Selling a home to buy a stock that has, for you, 17x, almost 18x. And she's been able to sell covered calls. Elaine, what's her average? Is it in that $10, $11 range? I think that's what it is. I think that's what you told me. But she's been able to sell covered calls on it every week as well. And she's been collecting ungodly amounts of premium because, when you have 600 contracts you can sell every freaking week, that's a lot of money. The average is 6 now. Well, that's accounting for the covered call premiums, right? The adjusted cost basis. That's the other good thing about covered calls. It reduces your cost basis. You're making money off the stock without having to sell the stock. Goodness gracious. Okay, so cost basis of 6, 178 divided by 6. That is a 30x for a random person who sold one of their homes to buy more Palantir. I mean, what a story, dude. What a story. Just incredible. Tesla right here at 317. That's up 3%. Apple 211. S&P 630. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have that same story. Maybe not to the same exact size. Some of you maybe even bigger. I mean, Triple V, by the way, Triple V has a lot of Palantir. His average is like 19. He has, I don't even want to say how many shares he has, but he has a lot of shares. Like we're talking about in the millions. So yeah, he is up there. And so this should be a decent week for him. I haven't heard from him all week, so I guess he's in Kenya partying around Palantir. Palantir 178.40, Fortinet 96.86, IONQ that's down 2%, Microsoft that's flat, Amazon 216. Okay, here's the question. Let's calm the euphoria a little bit with some arguments around valuation. Like, is it getting too much? What do you guys think? Put it in the chat. Is it too much? Is it like, are you scared? Are you nervous of this? Are you like, hey, this is making me uncomfortable? This is like, I don't like it. Or are you like, nope, this is a generational company. The street's catching on. Retail bought it cheap. Street's buying it high. And it is what it is. Yes, it's a bubble. Yes. No. Yes, for short term. Not with a quarter like that. Not going to lie, a bit scared. By the way, I just want to show everybody one thing because our boy is taking a lot of credit for this thing. A lot of credit for this thing. This is what was happening when the stock was $7. For the person who now is saying that Palantir is the best company and it was always going to go to 200.
Palantir Technologies, PLTR.
Sell. I mean, what is it, guy? I mean, like, by the way, you don't curse, especially when you're doing lousy. Hey, maybe you can curse when you're doing well, but when you're doing lousy, shut.
So this is a little bit of a change of attitude now with Palantir pushing 180. See, here's the thing. When Karp cursed on that earnings call, if you were a retail investor listening to Kramer, you got scared because the CEO is cursing. If you were listening to Arnie and me on Palantir Weekly, we were saying, dude, this guy is passionate. This guy has emotions. This guy cares. He's upset about the quarter, and he cursed because he actually cares about the company. And that was the difference between mainstream media and what retail was analyzing for Palantir. We were actually analyzing Karp, the human being, versus Karp, the crazy guy that could not get a profitable quarter. And that was the difference. And you had to understand that nuance, which is a very important nuance because you're investing in people. You're investing in people at the end of the day, more than you're investing in the idea of the company itself. And those people have to execute. And when someone curses on an earnings call because they're passionate, that to me tells me that person really cares. Not that that person is ignoring shareholders by saying the F word on an earnings call. Like, are you kidding me? That's your analysis? Really? That's what the suits came away with? He said the F word. Oh, don't touch the stock. Really? Come on. It was a totally different form of analysis. Just a totally different form of analyzing who Alex Karp was and what this company could become. All right. Again, at 180, we still have 100,000 shares. We got kind of close at 179.50. We're back there at 179.50. Let's see. 180 exactly. 145,000 shares. 145. Ring the bell so hard you wake up your grandmother. So my grandmother is now in India. She went back last week. But this bell, she would definitely be like, what are you ringing upstairs? Because the big bell is much louder. But yeah, I think we're going to have to ring it for 180 if we rang it for 175 yesterday. We're going to do it for 180 if we get there. And I think it's going to get there, but it might take some time. Do you guys remember who was here in the summer of 2024 when Palantir was $29? It took us 3 hours to get to 30. 3 hours. 3 freaking hours, bro. And we stayed live. And then it got to 30. And, you know, I think there's probably a decent amount of you that were with me that day. It took a minute, but we got it. It was like $29.98 for 2. And then it went to $29.92, then $28.84, then $29.99, then $29.87. Like, they kept it going for a while. But then we got there. Julian, thank you for the 50 super chat again. I miss cart banging on the table. That was the all-in buy signal, 1,000%. My CEO bangs on the table. That means he cares. He cares. Passion matters. You need passion in life. You need the energy. Carp's rich. He has more money than he knows what to do with. You need someone who actually cares about the mission. And I'm telling you, he didn't bang the table because of the stock price. He banged the table because he knew the quarter sucked. And he knew he had to be accountable to answer to these analysts that were asking why the quarter sucked. And he was upset. And that's what you need from a CEO. Scarlett was there. Fritz was there. Derek was there. I remember that. Leonoids was there. Palantir Bull, those were the times. Yeah, I think a bunch of you guys were there. And cracking through 30 was a big deal. And if you bought at 30, which was up 6x from the lows or 5x from the lows, you are now up 6x from 30 if you bought at 30. My goodness, dude. And again, this is real money, dude. For every dollar this thing goes up, lots of money goes up in terms of the net worth of the shareholders that own it. 20 cents. 20 cents. All right, we got to see. We got to see. What a story. What a journey of a lifetime. What an adventure. What a story that's just beginning based on that quarter. Story that is actually just beginning. S&P 500 trying to get to 631. That's also helping Palantir as the whole market's going green. And what a management team that has been able to execute at this level. Read them and weep. I mean, because if you get the passion of banging on the table, you're going to get the passion of read them and weep. You're going to get that passion going both ways. And it's pretty damn incredible. Dude, Palantir market cap now, $424 billion. I believe it is above top 20 market cap now. Palantir, if you take out some of the international names, it's right there. Exxon's the next biggest one, 460. All right, 179.90. We touched it. We touched it. Here we go. This is the moment. It's got to break through here. You've got to see demand come in. You've got to see demand come in. 143,000 shares. Here you go. These are the 5 cents that are left. These are the 5 cents that are left. 179.97, 179.98, 179.99, $180 a share for Palantir Technologies. What an adventure. What a journey. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We got the big bell. 180 for Palantir. I don't really know what to say. Shout out to Love to Fly Pilot. There he is. This is the person at the California meetup who gave me this big Palantir community bell that we're able to ring on these momentous occasions. The fact that someone went out of their time, A, to show up to a meetup, but B, to make a custom Palantir bell. I mean, it just goes to show the ethos of this community is very, very real. People across the world came together for this moment. And the entire community is kind of getting rich together, which is also pretty freaking cool. 180 on Palantir. You know what's better than 180, folks, because just like Palantir, we are not resting on our laurels. 181 is 12,000 shares. 12,000 shares to get to 181. Is the valuation aggressive? Yeah. 125 times price to sales aggressive? Sure. $425 billion market cap. Is that up there? A little bit. But the point is, if you bought in years ago at this point, like you bought in, and I don't think people in the chat are buying up 10 million shares every second to get it to go up. This is bigger than retail at this point. This is being controlled by something different. And when you put up a quarter like that, and when you deliver real value, not bullshit, and you spend 20 years caring about your customers, not just about whatever the sign of the times are, to be able to be relevant for things that will eventually not matter, you get rewarded. And Palantir is getting rewarded. 184 Palantir. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. 181 resistance again, 12,000 shares. We got to 180.30. So I don't know if they kind of let us chill for the day or if they take us higher. It's up to the market makers at this point if they really want to let it keep going. But 181 does have 12,000 shares, so it's not as aggressive as it as the 180 resistance was as well. Yeah, dude, this is this is Elaine should be kind of happy right now. Well, a lot of you guys, no one's working from home. That's for damn sure. No one's working from home. Not today. Not today. My goodness, dude. My goodness. 180.3 on Palantir. 180.50 is what we got. Hoodies down 2%, Grabs down 2%, Arista's up 17, A-Lab's up 31, S&P trying to get to 631. Folks, we are officially recovering everything we lost on Friday. So the broader market, I have a lot of macro charts. I have not had a chance to even show everybody, but the macro charts are indicating that August, based on the data so far, maybe is not going to be as bad. So it's only 6 days into August. We got to see. We got a long August left. We got a lot of these trade deals, potential more tariffs that are going to be coming forth from the Trump administration. But at least in the first week, it's kind of okay. It's kind of okay. And again, for those that are taking profits here, again, like I've never cared when people sell or take profits. Like if you got to sell, you got to sell. If you think this is way too euphoric, if you think this is too much, like you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. So, I mean, like you should not feel bad if you're taking profits here. You're getting tons of liquidity, obviously. If you bought at 20, 30, 40, 50, and you're like, you know what, this is a good return. I don't care that much about Palantir long-term. I'd rather go find something that's a better value play, then go ahead. You know, this is, I don't think there's any issue with taking profits here. It's just a question of why is the street giving it this much momentum after those earnings? And it's because those earnings look like they're going to replicate for the next, presumably minimum 8 quarters. And then if they can, so the next 2 years of at least 40% growth, that's kind of what it's looking like. And if they can keep that up into 2027, 28, 29, at least at 35, then, you know, it will still be a very expensive stock, but obviously there will be a lot of growth there. There will be a lot of growth. So yeah, remember when Steve said Palantir to 150? Steve was right. Steve was more bullish than all of us. Steve's the one at $70 who said Palantir to 150. Should have wrote the article, dude. He should have wrote it. I mean, this is just incredible. This is incredible. It's hard to imagine it. It's hard to imagine. Palantir single-handedly paying off my wife's $200K of student loans. Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own story, right? Everyone has their own story of their Palantir journey, Palantir profits, Palantir covered calls. Like, it's just incredible. I think the market's maybe letting it breathe a little bit below 180, but the fact that it got there is amazing. Oscar right here up 3% on the day. MP is up a little bit. Amazon's up 2%. Amazon recovering a little bit from their earnings. Meta up 0.5%. Shopify, that one's still up 15. That one's up 20, 152. Shopify, great day. Incredible. AMD, nasty day, down 9%. And then Apple up 4% based on that announcement. That's likely coming with Trump later at the end of the day. Palantir's made so many millionaires. Dude, did you guys see the stat from NVIDIA? NVIDIA now says 25% of their company, 50% of, let me get the exact stat. I think it's like 50% of the company is worth 25 million, like their personal net worth. Let me see the stat. It's roughly 50% of NVIDIA employees are now worth over 25 million, and roughly 80% of NVIDIA employees are now millionaires. That's wild, bro. That's wild. My friend bought a $1.4 million house and was able to buy out or put down 40% because I convinced him to buy Palantir. Wow. I mean, It's changed lives, dude. It has changed lives. And it's not just the stock. Obviously, there's a company and a community associated with the stock. The stock is a byproduct of execution. Like, this is not GameStop where the stock is going up for the hell of it. It might feel like that to the outside world, but when you look at the numbers, you have to read them and weep. And then it's just up to the street on how much they want to pay. I mean, like, every time people say Palantir's this retail meme stock frenzy, everyone's dumb money, full of shit, people have no idea what they're talking about. I'm like, dude, that only works to an extent. Open Door, they had one day of that shit happening. It got to $5 before people took profits. GameStop had a month of that happening. Krispy Kreme, Kohl's had a couple hours of, like, you don't have that dumb money retail pumped up phenomena go on for 2 years at this point and result in a $400 billion company that, of course, it could have a dip. But unless this thing comes back down to like $50 a share, it's hard to say it's a bubble. Could I see it coming down 20, 30%? Of course, anything could happen. But seeing it down 70, 80%, like, I just hate that frame of reference that people try to use because they can't explain the valuation or the market cap like so many of us have spent years trying to understand. Because, by the way, it was expensive at 20. Doesn't look like that now, but if you looked at the growth, it was expensive at 20. It's expensive at 180. But the same argument they had at 20 is the same argument they have at 180, which means to me it's just intellectually lazy to chalk it up as dumb money. And it fundamentally ignores that big money is looking at those results, and they're looking at OpenAI getting a $500 billion valuation yesterday on the secondary markets. They're looking at NVIDIA getting ready to be one of the first $10 trillion companies, and they're asking themselves, all right, well, if Palantir is the winner in enterprise AI, what is that worth? And they're doing this on less than 900 customers. I mean, what do we think is going to happen when the customers scale? I think all of those reasons put together is a real pushback against the argument that it's just pure retail hype and momentum. And I guess time will tell. Time will tell. Maybe I'm wrong, but time will tell. Kevin, thanks for the $10 super chat. Amit, I sold a covered call at 165 for 8.8 a month ago at $4 a contract. Those contracts are now over 15. What do? I don't want to lose my shares. I would roll them out. You're probably gonna have to roll out a year. So you got them at $4 a contract. So you need to cover they're now 15. So you need to cover a $15 debit. I would go first into 2027. Let's go to January 2027. You're gonna have to go out a year. Yeah, so you can easily cover them. I mean, you can go. So the contracts are worth 15, Kevin. You can sell a call at $27 of credit, which means 27 minus 15, you will be getting $12 a share of net credit. You will be making money. And you can sell a $260 call for January 2027. So you have to lock up your shares for a year, but your price will go from 165 to 260, $100 a share. And you're going to make money on the covered call because you're technically making the difference between 27 and 15. Why is this possible? Because someone right now is willing to pay $27 a contract, or sorry, $27 a share, $2,700 a contract for Palantir going to 260 by January 2027. Now, do I think it'll go to 260 by January 2027? I have no idea. But if it does, you'd rather have your shares get called away at 260 versus 165. And if it does get there, you can manage the position in January of 2027. So I don't think you're in a really crappy position. You're going to have to give up your shares for a year, but you will be able to at least save them to the tune of $100 if you roll that contract. So that's what I would do on those. Am I comparing OpenAI with Palantir? So no, like obviously OpenAI, totally different mechanism on their go-to-market, growth rate, valuation, profitability, all that stuff. They're different. But my point is when you're an investor or like when you're a big institutional investor, a lot of times you think of these things in buckets. Like, do you think the institutional investors that look at Palantir really understand every little minute detail that retail investors? No, we're obsessed with it. They think of it as AI SaaS growing fast. Okay, bye. I literally was at dinner with an institutional investor in New York a week ago, and she told me this is how they think of it. She told me the reason they didn't get into Palantir at $7 is because they couldn't understand it. It was too complicated. And so they just moved on from it. They didn't feel like going through the DD. So my point is when you think of AI, you think of Palantir, OpenAI, NVIDIA, et cetera. And then the question becomes, what is that worth if one of them is worth XYZ and the other one is worth XYZ? And you kind of peg them together to try to understand what is the overall market worth, even if they're different companies. And that is why I think they're comparable, even if they're not the same companies. And so does that justify $400 billion? No, but like it is a way to think of the market cap. And that's what I've been trying to do for the past year. I'm not trying to justify 422. There's no numerical way I can justify it at 125 times sales. But I can't explain why the market might be giving it the valuation. And I refuse to accept the lazy reasoning by all the bears, which is dumb retail. Be my guest if that's what you want to do. Because the Bears have been saying that since $30, so they can keep saying that. But if you want to intellectually theorize Palantir's valuation and its ability to maintain this momentum as dumb retail, I just think that's being way too arrogant about the story. And I just don't think that's the right way to think about it. Maybe I'm wrong. So there you go. Palantir 179, folks. It's taken a breather from 180. Pretty damn incredible to see it. Remember when Palantir was considered a slow consulting firm? I remember when people were saying they should split up government and commercial. Alex Karp should be fired. I mean, the amount of things that people have said over the past 4 years is just, it's a different world, dude. It's a freaking different world. And a lot of that just missed the thesis. It missed the thesis. Palantir going up on earnings and AMD not going up is a joke. Look, I think AMD is great, but I wouldn't hate on Palantir going up just because AMD is not going up. Palantir grew 45% with 45% margins. AMD grew 14% in the biggest market that exists on planet Earth, which is data centers. That's not good growth. So the market's taking it down 9%. That doesn't mean AMD is a bad company, but hating on Palantir because they grew 45% is not, it's not the right comparison, in my opinion, to get mad at one versus think the other one deserves it. I think it requires a humbling from everybody, including myself. It requires a humbling from even the most bullish of bulls to understand why the market is giving it this valuation. At the end of the day, the market is right and the market is wrong at the same time. And so far, the market has been right about Palantir, and anyone who has been consistently saying that this thing is overvalued and deserves to be sold off has been wrong. That's what Steve said yesterday. Steve's accepting the humble pie and saying, look, for 5 months, I've been saying the thing's ridiculously overvalued. You should go back to $70. I'm wrong. This type of growth you can't fade. And as a result, you are seeing some of this momentum. Tessie right here. Are we getting a little bit of room on Tessie? Tesla. By the way, my friend, shout out to Davis. He just bought a Tesla yesterday. He also is a Palantir millionaire as well. He's a good friend of mine. You guys probably seen him in the chat. He had the most beta tweet out of all the tweets that have come out on Palantir in the past 24 hours. I'll show you guys the tweet right here. But he was able to, he didn't sell any Palantir to buy the Tesla, but given Palantir's increased his net worth, he's been able to afford a Tesla, which is, he's just a regular guy. That's it. You know, all of us, just regular people. He said, hey, Sydney Sweeney, just throwing it out there, but I own Palantir. I was like, you know, I have some beta tweets, but that one was pretty beta. At least I didn't tweet that. Although, I feel like I should hit Sydney Sweeney up and just let her know I got some Palantir. You never know, you never know. Tesla right here, 318, Palantir, 178.95, taking a little bit of a break after busting through 180.5. And you're seeing it come down a little bit right now. It's incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Sachin says AMD was running hot on expecting at least 20% AI data center revenue growth. It will reach in time, but at this time, it's a humbling moment for AMD bulls who expected it right now. Yeah, that's exactly what Jose said, and he'll be on tomorrow. We just weren't able to talk to him because Palantir started going up a lot. But basically, Jose said a lot of these AMD bulls got way in over their heads expecting massive data center revenue growth. And when you come in at 14%, if the market's valuing growth more than market cap, Palantir at 45, market's going to give it a premium. AMD at 14, market's going to take away some of the premium after AMD already ran up as much as it ran up going into the print. So I don't think any AMD bull should be upset about it. Like, it is what it is. Not the best growth. It ran up a lot, and you move on and you wait till Q3 when that growth can reaccelerate. Also, we're in August, which tends to be a little weak. So you got that seasonal headwind there. And I don't think that takes away anything from Palantir, but it also doesn't mean AMD is the worst company in the world. Also doesn't mean AMD deserves to be up 10% today, right? So I think there's a simple way to kind of understand how that's playing out. Chris posted on X. Did he post about Palantir? Did he post on Palantir? I know he's got to be hating this. Oh, goodness gracious. Did he actually post this? I read the first sentence and oh boy. Chris, if you're watching, I got to respond to this, bro. What is this? Karp might say he's a socialist, but my dude has the taste of a capitalist. Said he hated Trump, but now designed software that enables him while making millions. Money has a way of corrupting everyone, especially a Patek Philippe. If you think this guy and the execs are selling shares while they proclaim hyperbolic growth in the horizon because they care about retail shareholders, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. First of all, I love Chris. He's a good friend of mine, and nothing will get in between Chris and I's friendship, even if we disagree on a stock. Okay, let me just put that out there. Like, we are very good friends. We talk every day on the phone. We're chill. I think he's fundamentally misreading what's going on with Palantir. Not the company, not the stock, but now he's getting personal. Now he's attacking Karp as a human being by saying he wears a watch because he's worth $12 billion. And as a result, he's a hypocrite for wearing a nice watch. I think that's a low blow. Well, it's not even a low blow because it's not a blow. Saying it's a blow would be giving it too much credit. I don't think that's like even a critique. But going that far to make an argument around Karp not caring about shareholders, I don't think that's a good argument. I'm sorry, I don't think that's a good argument. Here's the thing that Chris is missing right here. Here's the thing that Chris is missing. Palantir is a business. A business has shareholders, and shareholders care about shareholder returns. I played a video on the market close 2 Fridays ago of Palantir CEO Alex Karp. Some of you guys were there with me talking about GAAP profitability back in Q4 2021, which was February 2022 earnings. They did this like live video thing back then. And Karp was taking questions. And one of the questions was, hey, when are you guys going to be profitable? Karp went into a long, like 7-minute rant about why GAAP profitability matters. And the reason he went into that rant is because they had a lot of stock-based compensation. It was like almost 50% of revenues. And so the analyst was like, dude, you guys are diluting the shit out of us with stock. Like, when are you going to get profitable? Took them about 18 months to get profitable, but Karp explained in depth how they're going to become profitable, why they're giving SBC, TLDR, they needed the best talent in the world, and they needed to recruit them away from selling ads and Meta and making $500,000 a year. So you need to give them stock. And then he talked about the philosophy of what it means to be able to build a business that's mission-oriented. My point is, it's a business, which means there needs to be a return to shareholders. So just because Karp philosophically is more progressive because he studied economics in Germany and he's more on the side of like the progressive school of thought does not mean that he's a hypocrite, or that's like saying anyone who's a Democrat that runs a business. I'm sure Sundar Pichai is not like the biggest Republican in the world. Does Sundar Pichai not care about shareholder returns? Does someone who agrees with Joe Rogan said he would vote for Bernie Sanders? Is Joe Rogan now some socialist who doesn't care about making money? No, Joe Rogan makes hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Like, that argument in and of itself just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. And then he says money has a way of corrupting everyone. This is the most hilarious part about this. Money is the one thing that has not corrupted Palantir and the management team. They have stayed so true to their mission, to their ethos, to their philosophy. They have not capitulated for Russia or China or these investors, or Karp is not, a lot of people don't agree with Karp on Israel. Guess what? He continues to state his beliefs. You can disagree with him profusely, but the one thing you have to respect is that he will say whatever he feels in public at the behest of shareholders, by the way. At the behest of shareholder. Like, it's not great for Karp to be saying some of these things out there because they're a public company, and some people might say, screw Karp, I hate him based on what he's saying. I'm selling the stock. At the behest of shareholder value, he's continuing to be his authentic self because there's no other version of himself that he could be, whether you agree with him or not. If the money was corrupting you, you would think twice about, how you speak in public, and Karp doesn't think twice at all. And the lawyers hate that about him, but Karp continues to be Karp. And so the idea that the money's corrupting him because he's wearing a watch, the idea that insiders are selling shares. I mean, what would you do if you worked at a company for 30 years, your cost basis is 5 cents and the shares are at 150? You're probably going to take some profits. Like, are we kidding? Like, what's going on here? Like, and if they're not delivering the growth and they're taking profits, I get it. But they're delivering the growth. The market cannot, Palantir, I've said this over and over, Palantir cannot control how the market values them. Palantir is not out there freaking buying shares of the stock and manipulating. No, they're putting up earnings results. And then it is up to the deep liquidity of the public stock markets to decide what those earnings are worth. And if you hate how the market's valuing it, you can hate the valuation. That doesn't mean you should hate the executive team for putting up the growth on what they think is a business that really matters for society. If the market wants to give it an insane multiple, that is not Karp's fault. And to blame Karp for that or to act like he's juicing retail because of it, I think is a bit ridiculous. Julian says, to be fair, that watch is only worth like 70K. He's worth many billions. It's a pretty conservative watch. Julian, I think you might be a watch guy. Julian's like, hey, to be honest, he could he's a pretty humble guy for wearing a $70,000 watch, and he's worth billions of dollars. I mean, you do have a point. Like, I don't think I would ever wear a $70,000 watch, but yeah, the watch is relatively cheap in relationship to his net worth. But you guys get my point, right? You get my point. Like, this entire journey has been rooted in authenticity, every part of it. It's the reason my channel has grown, because I took the Palantir approach to building a community. I didn't sell out, didn't do the stupid courses and all this random stuff to try to get money out of you guys. I care so deeply about you guys being here because my dream is to create. My dream is to be able to have an audience. My dream is to be able to perform every morning. I'm so freaking blessed every morning and every afternoon that I get to do this, something that I love and that people actually care. And that's my MO. That's why I'm here. Palantir's business for the past 20 years was not making money, which is antithetical to shareholders. Their business was defending the West and building a company that the government would be proud about. They started to prevent another 9/11. They just ended up realizing, hey, there's a big commercial opportunity here. Let's go after it. So for 20 years, you don't make any money. You do it the right way. And then when you do go public, shareholders get mad at you because you guys still aren't making any money, but you focus on the product. You don't hire a 10,000 team sales force to go make calls on LinkedIn every day. You say, no, the product will sell itself because we're going to double down on making the product good. And we're only going to get paid if people get value from the product. I should only have an audience every morning if you guys actually get value from listening to me, not because you're paying $5 a month to listen to me. And that's the right way to build a business. What is that worth to the market? What is AK Media worth? I don't know. But if an investor were to look at the engagement of the audience, the level of community, the fact that thousands of people are here every morning, is that worth a lot of money? Who knows? But that's up to an investor to decide based on the type of engagement they see with me and my content. And that's also up for the market to see the type of engagement Palantir is getting from their customers and now how that's resulting in growth. And as a result, they're giving it a hell of a multiple. But maybe it's for a reason. Maybe it's for a reason. I don't think it's because the management team is trying to fleece shareholders or because they don't care about individual investors. Farzad, thank you for the $10 super chat. History will judge if people like Karp, Elon, etc. were in it for the money versus advancing civilization. 1,000%. History will judge if Karp was all full of shit and if he was just doing this for the money, or if he was actually focused on a mission. Time will tell. Same thing with Elon. Is Elon just like, pulling one over us to try to say Robotaxi FSD Optimus is the future? Or is Elon actually going to pull it off? Like, time gets to tell, but I think they built up enough goodwill based on their execution, based on their leadership, based on their ability to actually bring value to society. You have all these companies that are public that don't do shit for society. Then you have Palantir and Tesla that are actually changing the world. Let's not forget, Palantir software is on the front line when it comes to the battlefield. Like, people, well, it doesn't deserve this market cap. Well, what do you value human life on the battlefield? If you're a veteran, this probably hits home, right? If you know someone who's in your family that has gone on the front lines of the battlefield, this also hits home. I mean, like, what do you value a company that, so when I was at AIPCon in February, I spoke to a couple of Palantir vets and also actual Army veterans. One guy I spoke to, his name was Mike. He was 3 miles away. Sorry, not 3 miles. He was 3 hubs away from being blown up. When he was in Afghanistan back in 2008. And it was by the sheer amount of luck that he was just not in the sector that ended up getting bombed. A couple of his friends ended up passing away, and it was just like really tough stuff. And the reason he was there is because he was a Palantir engineer that was deploying Palantir software in Afghanistan. So, like, what is that worth? What is that worth? And now people may say, oh, you're being emotional. You're making an argument that has nothing to do with like the business. No, I think business is a lot more than just the numbers. What is that worth? So when the Wall Street Journal puts out a piece like that today, how Palantir won over Washington and pushed its stock up over 600%, the theme of this Wall Street Journal article is, hey, JD Vance is Peter Thiel's little puppet, and that's why the stock is up 600%. Or maybe it's the government realizing, wait a second, we need software on the battlefield that's going to work in a life or death situation. And as a result, that's probably worth a lot more than what people think it's worth. And the market is valuing it to be worth a lot more than what people think it's worth. I just think there's a lot more arguments to this. There's a lot more arguments to this than just, oh, the stock's overvalued. And again, by the way, I think the stock's expensive too. It's like I'm just trying to defend it like the stock's not overvalued or not crazy expensive. Of course the stock's crazy expensive right here. I'm just saying, to chalk it up to the management team having a watch on their wrist and therefore that's why they're like fleecing shareholders, I don't think is the right way to phrase it. I just don't think that's the right way to understand this company. Those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. I think this is the most authentic company that's out there. This has been the most authentic journey that's out there. I mean, when you talk to some of these Palantir engineers that were in Afghanistan, that were literally millimeters away from dying because they were deploying that software there, and you hear their stories. I hope one day I could do a podcast with him. He's a little bit more of a private guy. He doesn't really do social media. He's, you know, but yeah, I've known him since 2022, and I finally got to meet him at AIPCon back in February. And when you hear these stories, and you hear how they actually, no, it was September. It wasn't February. It was September. It was right before the election. It was right before the election in 2024. And you hear these stories, and you hear what they had to go through, and you hear how the fact that they were willing to risk their lives to deploy software because they cared not only about this country, but they knew that Palantir had the only software that was necessary to be able to save lives. Like, you start realizing this is a company that never really cared about making money or getting profitable. They cared about building something that would work. And now that they are profitable and growing, the street gets to decide what's that worth. And right now they're saying it's worth a lot more. Elaine says, I had a very dear friend that said I had blood on my hands. I told her she should do more research outside of what sees on the news. Anyone who says you have blood on your hand for Palantir, tell them their iPhone has blood on their hands as well. You got kids in China making the iPhone that we don't tend to talk about because we just happily forget about that because we move on with our lives. Like, you know, there's a lot of nuances to business. Their Nike sneakers have blood on their hands as well. You know, like you don't get to claim the moral virtues of a company based on headlines that you hear in the New York Times and then forget about all the ways that you benefit off of third world countries being marginalized for the products that we get to have in the West. It's not the most compelling argument. It's not that. Yeah, if you own a Tesla, if you own anything from an EV, cobalt mines in Africa. I mean, like, when people make these arguments, they're not good arguments. They're not strong. They're not arguments that are rooted in anything real. They're arguments that are rooted in virtue signaling because they're upset about their ideological belief in the world. And they don't have to invest. That's the beautiful thing about capital. You don't have to. If you believe Palantir is going to have blood on your hands, don't invest. It's a free market. But then if you're going to invest in Apple, I mean, if you're going to, well, you got some explaining to do. And it's not that easy to explain this stuff. It's not that easy to explain this stuff. There we go. Those are my thoughts. That's my rant. Again, still love Chris, good friend of mine, but we disagree on this. It's okay. It's okay to be disagreeing on stuff. And I think if the argument is Palantir doesn't care about shareholders and they're hyperbolically pumping the stock, which at 45% growth is definitely hyperbolic. I don't know if that means Palantir is out there trying to say, hey, the stock needs to go higher. They really are not saying anything. They're telling the haters to read them and weep. And some of those haters might be buying the stock because it's better to own the stock than weeping about it. And that's why I think we're seeing some of this momentum. So there you go. That's what we got, folks. 180 on Palantir, now 178. And then, yeah, again, the watch is only 70,000. It's watch is not that expensive. Not that expensive for Palantir. If you're a shareholder of any company, for sure there's some shit you can dig up. Yes, of course. Like, this is the morality argument to me is ridiculous. Like, guess what? You're contributing to people dying from cigarettes if you buy Altria Group. You're a horrible person if you own Altria Group, collecting your 5% dividend because people are dying to lung cancer because these guys sell them cigarettes. My goodness, what a horrible person. You should really feel bad about it every single day. I mean, what are we talking about? What are we actually talking about? But no one wants to have that conversation because it's not easy to justify their side of the hypocrisy when they make the argument. So if you're going to invest, you can't only use ethics as the baseline. Doesn't mean you don't care about it, but to say that's your only argument, it's like, all right, well, I don't know. I don't know if the best argument. And then again, on the insider selling point, the insider selling point is irrelevant to me. I don't. Yeah, Philip Morris has a better ESG rating than Tesla. I remember Steve told me this a year ago, and I was like, what? Philip, whatever, BlackRock, whatever ESG committee comes up with these ratings, Philip freaking Morris has a better rating than Tesla. I mean, all right, cool. And then again, about the insider selling, I just don't think anyone cares. Like, insider selling matters if the stock goes down and the insiders are profiting. The stock has only gone up over the past 2 years, and people are going to take profits along the way. And by the way, every time insiders took profits, they were probably mad at themselves because a month later, they shouldn't have taken profits. Peter Thiel sold $1 billion worth of stock at $34. That billion would be worth $7 billion today if he didn't. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where you can't be that. If the stock didn't appreciate and the company didn't execute, you have the right to be mad about insider selling, which a lot of these crappy companies, they end up doing that. Palantir is just not that. It's not in that situation. Like NVIDIA, who's mad at Jensen for selling $40 million of stock last week? I'm not. It's hard for me to be upset because my NVIDIA average is 120 and I'm up a lot on NVIDIA. And it's because of Jensen. It is because of Jensen. So look, at the end of the day, those are my thoughts. Palantir 180 here. I know we got into a little rant right there, but you can have disagreements. It's okay to have healthy disagreements. I would not tolerate the argument that the company does not care about shareholders. And, people saying, oh, you're being a mouthpiece for Palantir right now. Dude, my entire channel was built on Palantir. So the stock at all-time highs, and then someone saying that Carp wearing a watch means that, you can't trust them. Like, yeah, I have a response to that. I will give my response. It is what it is. But those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Palantir. Dude, we need to get the rant intro. I need the freaking rant intro. I need to just finish it. Stop being lazy about it, because when it's time to go on a rant, we need our roll the rant intro and do what we got to do. Yeah, if anyone has a 401k, you're in Palantir. Exactly. If you own the S&P, you're in Palantir. I mean, like, these arguments just don't have a lot of it. Pharmaceuticals have done horrible things to our population. These arguments around morality are very hard to live up to when you realize what it means to actually invest in a company. So, Chris CRM, thanks for the $10 super chat. Proud of you. Held your line, didn't leave a friend, pushed back, kept your loyalties, and didn't lose your shit. That's leadership. Solid. Yeah, I mean, look, Chris and I have disagreements all the time, dude. Chris and I will be on the phone arguing with each other about different. Chris, Steve, and I were on the phone like 2 nights ago talking about Palantir. So it never gets personal between me and Chris. Chris will be in Miami. He's a good friend, but we just disagree on this. Steve and I have disagreed on Palantir for the past 5 months, and Steve's like one of my best friends. So, and if Steve still hated the valuation after this quarter and didn't say what he said yesterday about he's getting ready to buy Palantir, he would still be one of my best friends and still send me these freaking card convention Instagram reels and people talking on a podcast about alien Instagram reels that I'll have to respond to, because we're friends. Like, when you're friends, you don't let a girl get in between you. You don't let a stock get in between you. But that doesn't mean you can't have disagreements. And this is just something that I have a disagreement with. All right, folks, I think that's it. 11:30. We'll be back on the market close. We got a lot of stuff on the market close that we have to deal with. I see some of these headlines around the Indian government trying to navigate the tariffs. I think Trump will be talking about them today at 4:30. So we'll be getting a pretty big announcement today around Apple, and maybe he'll be talking more around tariffs. India fires back. Modi government slams the Trump tariff hike. U.S. actions are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable, says official. India, their official statement is, we have already made clear our position on these issues, including the fact that our imports are based on market factors and done with the overall objective of ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion people. It is therefore extremely unfortunate that the U.S. should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are taking in their own national interests. The United States in recent days has targeted India's oil imports from Russia. We reiterate that these actions are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. India will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. Look, I like India. I'm from India, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to make a deal. So they can say, oh, we have a lot of people, we need money from Russia, yada. They can say all this. Like, Trump's not going to care. So, like, I love India. India's great. I was there in October. But if you're going to go up to Trump and say, hey, we're going to keep buying gold from Russia, and it is what it is, all right, you're going to get hit with the tariff. You got to deal with it. So I imagine there will be a deal coming soon with India, and there will be some capitulation. And, Trump's probably not going to make them completely stop buying all of their oil from Russia. He probably is using this as to try to get a concession. And eventually, I think there will be a concession, because there kind of has to be a concession. All right, word of the day. What do we got on word of the day? I have no idea how I'm going to say this. Did Trump tweet anything just now? Yes, Trump just tweeted. Okay, before I read the word of the day, Trump said, I am proud to be the first president, with the exception of the late, great George Washington, to donate my salary. The first paycheck went to the White House Historical Association as we much needed renovations to the beautiful People's House. Great improvements and beautification is taking place at the White House at levels not seen since its original creation. Make America great again. Okay, I think Trump makes 400 grand a year. It's 400, yeah, 400,000 a year. So he is donating his 400,000. All right. So there you go. That's what we got from Trump. Word of the day, oublit. Oublit.
Oubliette.
A secret dungeon with an opening only in the ceiling. They unearthed a skeleton at the bottom of the how do you say this? Oubliette?
Oubliette.
Oubliette during renovations. Rumors of a hidden oubliette fueled ghost stories about the manor. A secret dungeon with an opening only in the ceiling. Okay. This reminds me of The Dark Knight Rises. When Batman was like stuck in that cave. Isn't that an oubliette? Oubliette? Dude, how do you say this freaking word? Oubliette?
Oubliette.
Oubliette. Wasn't he stuck in that cave where there was only an opening from the top? That's some good movie knowledge. Bringing up this word with The Dark Knight Rises. That was, you got to admit, that was pretty good. That is using the word of the day in a meaningful way. So there you go. The Bat Cave. Yeah, exactly. The Bat. Also known as Steve's basement. Dude, Steve, I was on FaceTime with him like a week ago. His bachelor pad. He has an apartment where he lives with his wife, and then he has another apartment that he owns right next to it. So, you know, people have like an office to like escape their wife and just go, you know, do whatever they need to do. He has an entire apartment whenever he needs to go chill and be by himself. It has a fridge, it has a sofa, bed, his computers, he can write up his articles. Like, so he's got a nice little bachelor pad right next to him. All right, folks, that's it. I'm done for the day. I'll be back tonight on the market close. It will be a pretty aggressive market close. We have a lot of companies that are reporting. We have Trump's announcement at 4 p.m. So we will see what Mr. Trump has to say. Again, IONQ, AppLovin, Airbnb, Elf, Reality Income, Realty Income. I always say reality, but it's realty. Duolingo, DraftKings, Oxy, DoorDash, Fortinet, Lyft, Joby, Symbiotic, Dutch Bros, Honest, HubSpot, ET, Energy, Sunrun, and other energy companies, Zillow. I mean, you've got basically 20 companies that are reporting today. So it will be pretty aggressive after the bell. And once again, congrats on Palantir at 180. I know I get pretty passionate about this subject. I'm sorry that the past 2 days for a lot of people that don't own Palantir or that found the channel and don't care about Palantir have had to listen to like 48 hours of Palantir coverage. This channel was built on this company, starting at $6. Now it's at 178. Kind of that's every finance YouTuber's dream, is they find a stock that they build a lot of their brand off of, and then that stock actually does what they think it can do. And Palantir has superseded my expectations. So we're going to try to get back to more like in general market stuff. It's just the past 2 days have been pretty wild on those earnings. And so that's why it's brought out a lot of passion to discuss Palantir. So appreciate everybody being here every single day. Again, deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate people listening every morning and afternoon. Even if you don't own Palantir, a lot of people told me, dude, I don't even own Palantir, but I just like listening and being part of the community. So I know the past 2 days has been heavy on Palantir, but we will make sure to diversify all the coverage. And again, if there's one thing to take away, I am trying to build this brand the way that Palantir is building their business, which is give value, and eventually you will see the rewards of it. And I think that's what's happening with Palantir's market cap as well. So there you go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Great job on Shopify, Astera, A-Lab, a lot of these names getting momentum. And then the S&P 500, pretty green on the day, 631, up more than 0.5%. We will see after hours what we get when we have all the different earnings that we have today. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys after the bell. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.